Chapter 364. Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, this crack is the way back." Tiger Love said, "I made a mark in case we can't go back." Jean Dia said, "If we didn't come out from there, we wouldn't have known that it was a passage. Damn it, what is this place?" Lei Xingfeng and the others didn't know that after they entered this world, the mirror on the cliff outside disappeared. Jean Depang was in high spirits. He said, "Why don't we go and take a look? As long as there is a way back, we don't have to worry. If we can't go back, we can go back." Jean Dia said, "Okay, Depang, you stay here and wait for us to come back." Jean Depang's face suddenly turned bitter. He said, "Well, I'd better go with you guys. I feel cold in here alone." Blackbird said, "Coward." Jean Depang said, "Why don't you go with me?" Blackbird immediately exploded. He said, "Go with you my ass. Caw, I won't go with you. Caw, caw." In fact, he was also afraid. This place was very strange. Xian Foam spoke. "All right, stop quarreling. Let's go together." He released 6 silver rank mannequins and spoke. "Don't worry, we have helpers. There's no need to be afraid." 6 silver rank mannequins could even fight against a monarch, causing everyone to relax. Jean Dia said, "Let's go and see what is here. Why is it so desolate? Even the color has disappeared." The whole world was black, white, and gray, just like the black and white movies in Lei Xingfeng's previous life. There was no color, and it gave people a very strange feeling. The 4 of them were a little scared, but no one was willing to say it out loud. Jean Depang raised his hand and Blackbird cawed twice. Everyone knew that Blackbird's laughter was a caw, but they didn't know what it was laughing about. Blackbird said, "Fatty is stupid, caw, caw." Jean Depang rolled his eyes and said, "There is no wind here. There is no wind at all." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, everything here seems to be frozen. Let's go." The 4 of them took the 6 silver puppets and walked forward. This time, they didn't fly. No one knew what dangers there would be in the sky. This was a common sense for cultivators. In an unfamiliar place, one should move on the ground as much as possible. Lei Xingfeng knew how dangerous it was to fly in the sky in the outer space. There was a large amount of dead branches and leaves on the ground, as well as dead weeds. They had all completely decayed. When they stepped on them, those seemingly intact dead branches and leaves instantly turned into dust. The dust that rose from their feet slowly rose behind them as they moved forward. Blackbird couldn't help but say, "Ga." Jean Depang stretched out his hand and patted a withered tree beside him. Before he could say anything, the withered tree suddenly turned into dust and drifted down. Jean Depang ran to the side with his face covered in dust and said, "Bah, bah, this tree has already turned into dust." Jean Depang stomped on the ground. A vibration wave spread out, and the dead trees around them all collapsed, raising even more dust. The 4 of them quickly avoided the dust. Lei Xingfeng exclaimed, "How many years did it take for the trees to decay to this extent?" Jean Depang said, "It's unimaginable. Without a certain amount of time, it would be impossible. It would take tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Of course, this is just my guess. There is no way to estimate the exact time." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "No matter how long it took, we have to figure out where we are. This place doesn't look like the outer space at all. Of course, it's not like the outer space either." Tiger Love said, "Don't worry about what it is. Let's see what's here." Jean Depang smiled and said, "Let's keep going. Maybe we'll find the answer." They went over a mountain ridge and climbed up a mountain peak. In front of them was a boundless plain. The scenery was still monotonous and colorless. The whole world was black, white, and gray. Only the branches of the trees were left. There was still no wind, and it was silent. This was a dead world. Standing on the mountain peak, Lei Xingfeng stared into the distance and said, "Is that a building?" Jean Depang said, "Where?" Lei Xingfeng pointed and said, "Beside the dead forest." "Is that a building?" "There seems to be a spire. It doesn't look like something formed naturally. It's very regular, like a man-made building." Tiger Love said, "Should I fly over?" Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, "No, please don't. If we fly, we'll be too big of a target. If there are any remaining defenses, then we'll be clear targets. Let's run over. It's a bit far, but with our strength, it's still very fast." The four of them ran towards the building with the 6 silver puppet beasts in tow. Along the way, smoke and dust rose. It was as if an earth dragon was pushing towards the building. Wherever they passed, everything turned into dust. This was a small village with about a dozen families. Lei Xingfeng and the other 3 stood at the entrance of the village. Jean Depang said, "There doesn't seem to be anyone here." Tiger Love said, "Nonsense. Of course there's no one here. Look at the dust on the ground and the houses. It's almost as thick as a palm." The houses were well preserved, although they looked black and white and were covered by a thick layer of dust. The houses were still intact. However, the premise was that they didn't touch the houses. Based on Lei Xingfeng and the others' experience, the houses should have crumbled. Perhaps a slight tremor would destroy the buildings. Lei Xingfeng said, "Everyone wait here. I'll go in and take a look." Jean Depang said, "I'll go in with you." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "No need. I'll go in alone. Be careful. I keep having a strange feeling." Jean Depang said, "I don't feel anything. It's just that this place is too strange." Lei Xingfeng walked into the village step by step. The buildings here were made of wood and were very exquisite. Although they were covered by a thick layer of dust, they could still clearly see the exquisite carvings on them. The doors were all sliding doors and had to be pushed to the side. However, the moment Lei Xingfeng touched the door, the wooden door collapsed. Boom! The chain reaction caused the entire building to collapse rapidly. Lei Xingfeng fled backwards. A cloud of dust rose. Following the tremor, the surrounding buildings collapsed one after another. In less than a minute, the entire village was shrouded in dust. Lei Xingfeng had already escaped to the entrance of the village. Tiger Love was a little nervous and asked, "What's wrong?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Mother Astra's cur, it's all collapsed. It can't stop at all. I just touched it, and it all collapsed." After the dust settled, the four of them went in to take a look. After a round, they didn't find anything. Everything had turned to dust. They didn't find anything valuable at all. The four of them looked at each other. After a while, Tiger Love said, "This place is very evil. Should we continue, or should we leave?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Continue. Why should we leave? Of course we should continue to search. I keep feeling that there's a secret here. It's just that I don't know what the secret is." Jean Depang said, "Let's continue searching. I don't believe that we can't find anything." Jean Depang also said, "I agree." The black bird only said one word, "Let's do it." Hearing this, everyone was speechless. They thought, "Why is a bird like you joining in the fun?" The four of them continued to move forward quickly. After walking for about an hour, they saw another small village. This time, no one waited at the village entrance. Everyone walked into the village together. Lei Xingfeng pointed at the wooden buildings and said, "On the surface, they seem to be intact, but in reality, they're all dust. Hee, this time we won't enter the rooms. We'll look outside and see what's in the rooms." Jean Depang said, "I'll go this way. I'll go check out that house." He took to his heels. Lei Xingfeng suddenly had a bad feeling. Before he could say anything, Jean Depang's heavy footsteps caused the house to collapse. This guy's footsteps actually caused all the houses in the small village to collapse. Jean Depang cursed angrily. "Bastard, can't you be quieter? You can also cause houses to collapse just by walking." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. Jean Depang's face immediately turned pale. He ran outside in a sorry state. Lei Xingfeng and the others also turned around and ran out. They weren't afraid of the collapsed houses, but they couldn't stand the rising dust. Even so, the 4 of them were covered in dust. The 6 humanoid beasts were also covered in dust. Jean Depang looked very uncomfortable, as if he had done something wrong and didn't know what to do. Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, all right, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a house in a small village that collapsed. Let's continue moving forward." Suddenly the ground shook. It was a very clear feeling, as if a big drum had been struck. Tiger Love said, "What?" All of a sudden, the whole earth began to shake violently. In an instant, all the withered trees and branches turned into ashes. The whole world was filled with dust and smoke. Lei Xingfeng and the others couldn't see more than 5 meters away. The ground shook violently. Lei Xingfeng and the others had no choice but to fly up. They didn't dare to fly too high, only a foot above the ground. They didn't want to be affected by the shaking. Jean Depang was more miserable. He didn't have a piggyback this time, and he couldn't stand steadily on the shaking ground. He swayed left and right, cursing incessantly. AI, mother of asterisk her. AI. The shaking became even more violent. Lei Xingfeng muttered to himself, "It's at least a magnitude 8 or 9 earthquake." Jean Depang didn't hear Lei Xingfeng's words clearly. He asked, "What?" Lei Xingfeng naturally wouldn't explain what an earthquake was. He said, "It seems like the whole world is shaking. I don't know why." He didn't believe that the earthquake was caused by the collapse of a small village. A beam of light shone down. In an instant, Lei Xingfeng and the others were shocked to find that the whole world had color. The 4 of them stared blankly. They all felt like they were in a dream. It was as if the lost color had suddenly returned. At this moment, they could see that the rising smoke also had color. After a full 10 minutes, the smoke and dust finally settled. The whole world reappeared in front of them. It was completely different from the world they saw before. From black, white, and gray to color. It only took 10 minutes, but Lei Xingfeng and the others were incomparably shocked. Chapter 365. Jean Depang said, Did I do this? This is 2F asterisk King Spectacular. He felt great about himself. Xian Feng raised his head to look at the sky. That ray of light had already spread out. The originally light gray sky was now a clear blue. The ground was now black and dark brown. Even the collapsed village had regained its normal color and was no longer gray. Everyone felt a slight chill on their faces. Lei Xingfeng touched his face and said, "It's raining." Extremely fine raindrops fell from the sky. No one knew where the rain came from. There were no clouds in the sky, but the drizzle continued to fall. It felt even more strange. Jean Depang spread out his hands and said, "What a strange rain." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, let's continue. I don't believe that we can't find anything valuable." He was also starting to get angry. 2 villages had completely collapsed. There were almost no clues or information to be found. He couldn't figure out where this place was or what was here. Of course, he was unhappy. The 4 still didn't dare to fly. This place was too strange. With Lei Xingfeng's experience, flying was definitely not a good choice. There were too many ways to attack. If he was a monarch, he would have dared to fly. However, his current strength was not enough. It was too easy to die. They ran forward. The 4 were followed by 6 silver puppets. They also ran forward, but their speed was slightly slower than Lei Xingfeng's group. While running, Lei Xingfeng said, "Why do I feel that there is a kind of temptation in the distance? Do you guys feel it?" Jean Dia said, "I don't feel anything. No, I feel a bit threatened. It's very faint." Jean Dupin's fat body didn't hinder his running speed. In fact, his running speed was not slower than the others. This guy's strength was not bad. He said, "I don't feel anything." Tiger Love said, "Yes, old Jean is right. I also feel threatened. There doesn't seem to be any temptation." He was also a bit confused. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and said, "Strange. This feeling is getting stronger. It seems to be calling me over." Jean Dia's expression changed slightly. "A trap?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "No, it doesn't look like a trap. I don't understand either." Jean Dupin laughed and said, "Then let's go and take a look. Anyway, there's a human puppet here. What's there to be afraid of?" Blackbird said, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" Jean Dupin was baffled. "What do you mean?" Lei Xingfeng laughed. As soon as he heard the words, "What's there to be afraid of?" he knew that Blackbird would definitely not be able to hold back. Blackbird often automatically put other people's words on his head. This was the so-called "take a seat." Blackbird said angrily, "What do you mean I'm afraid of him? I'm the only bird here." Jean Dupin staggered and almost fell to the ground. He tried his best to stabilize his body and couldn't help but curse, "Blackbird! Are you crazy?" The Blackbird said, "You're the one who's sick." Lei Xingfeng helplessly shook his head and said, "All right, stop arguing. Shut up." Jean Dupin muttered, "Ridiculous." Blackbird also muttered, "Damn you, fatty." Jean Dupin was also helpless. Blackbird was usually good and silent, but when he didn't know what was wrong, he would have a poisonous tongue. Except for Lei Xingfeng, everyone else was his target. Lei Xingfeng, however, was thinking about something else. Just the fact that the monochrome world had suddenly turned into a colorful world was definitely strange. Until now, he still couldn't figure out the reason or what kind of world this was. This place was obviously different from the outside world, and it wasn't a place like the starry sky. It was a little like a secret space, but it was impossible for the outside world to have a secret space. It was formed by the rules. The secret space couldn't be moved because it was attached to the outside world. The outside world was just a small world, so it was impossible for it to have a secret space. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng couldn't come up with an answer even after thinking about it for a long time. The only thing he could think of now was to try his best to find clues and find an answer. The 4 people and 6 humanoid beasts ran forward. The ground was wet from the rain, so there was no more smoke and dust. Their heavy footsteps could be heard far away. Lei Xingfeng suddenly stopped and looked around in shock. He said, "Did you notice anything different?" Jean Dupin asked, "What's different?" He didn't respond for a moment. Instead, it was Tiger Love who said in surprise, "The ground is sprouting." Jean Dupin was also shocked. "It's true. Look at the ground. There are countless sprouts. Oh my God, what's going on?" Jean Dupin squatted down and looked carefully. Sure enough, the sprouts were growing out of the ground at an extremely fast speed. The rain had only been falling for a few minutes, but the ground was already covered in faint green spots. Lei Xingfeng said, "There's wind." The wind and rain appeared, and the color returned. The world seemed to have come back to life. When the green sprouts came out of the ground, the whole earth was thriving. The 4 people were a little dumbfounded as they stared blankly at the ground. This change was not only big, but also very fast. Jean Dupin said, "What a strange feeling. It's like it's coming back to life." Lei Xingfeng clapped his hands hard and said, "Yes, it's like it's coming back to life. It seems like it's been dead for a long time and has turned into ashes. Is this because we came in?" As he spoke, the ground was already covered with tender green plants. Originally, there was only an extremely small bud, but now it had already grown to at least an inch long. Moreover, it was densely packed, as if the entire ground was covered with a green carpet. Jean Depang pointed into the distance and said, "It's all green. Oh my God, it's incredible." Jean Depang said, "I can't say for sure about other things, but there's definitely a treasure in this place. As for what kind of treasure, I don't know." Tiger Love said, "Look carefully. I believe we can find it." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "I think we can find it too. This world is too strange. Hee, it really makes me curious." Jean Depang said, "Forget about it. Let's keep going." The group continued to run forward. About half an hour later, the whole earth began to shake violently. They immediately stopped and looked at it in bewilderment. Jean Depang said, "What the hell is going on? Why is the earth shaking again?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know. Let's be careful." Other than Jean Depang, who couldn't stand steadily, the others hovered a foot above the ground and looked around. Tiger Love suddenly said, "What's that?" He pointed behind him and asked. Lei Xingfeng and the others turned around and saw several black figures in the distance, heading towards Lei Xingfeng's group. Jean Depang said, "People? Beasts? Or something else?" Lei Xingfeng's eyes were sharp. He said in disbelief, "Puppet beasts? Puppet beasts? These puppet beasts are different from the ones we've seen before." There were a total of 7 puppet beasts. They were completely different from the silver and gold grade puppet beasts Lei Xingfeng had collected. They were obviously crudely made, larger in size, and different in shape. Lei Xingfeng's silver grade puppet beast had a wolf head with 2 extra horns. The gold grade puppet beast had a tiger head with 2 horns as well. The mannequin that was running toward them had a beast head as well, but it looked more like a bear's head. It also had horns, but instead of 2 curved horns, it was a single horn that shone with a cold light. It was obvious that it was used as a weapon. He was also wearing armor made of steel. It could be seen that it was extremely thick and heavy, but it was already covered in rust. He held a long double-edged axe in his hand. The sound of his running was dull and powerful. The rumbling sound was shocking. After counting carefully, there were a total of 7 puppet beasts. They were all 3 meters tall and had an intimidating aura. Compared to Lei Xingfeng's puppet beast, it was like comparing a hammer to a claw hammer. The two were completely different in size. Even the silver grade puppet beasts were slightly smaller in size. Lei Xingfeng waved his hand and said, "Go." He ordered the silver grade puppet beasts to charge. The 6 silver grade puppet beasts received the order and immediately rushed forward. Jean Dia laughed and said, "Ha, now we can save a lot of energy. With the puppet beasts, we don't have to participate in many battles anymore." Lei Xingfeng looked on nervously. These puppet beasts were his treasures. If they were to be lost, he would be heartbroken. When the 2 puppet beasts collided, the outcome of the battle was decided in an instant. The silver grade puppet beasts almost instantly killed its opponent. The remaining puppet beast did not have much resistance and was smashed into pieces by the 6 silver grade puppet beasts. This was not the main point. The main point was that the 6 puppet beasts picked up the broken puppet beast's weapon at the same time. It was a huge double-edged axe with a long handle. Lei Xingfeng immediately understood that the silver grade puppet beasts chose to use it to save energy. Using their fists and legs to attack was too inefficient. If they had weapons, they could save a lot of energy. One of the silver grade puppet beasts picked up 2 long double-edged axes and came in front of Lei Xingfeng. It threw one of the axes in front of Lei Xingfeng. Xianfeng laughed as he shook his head. thinking, "This fellow is very smart. He even knew to leave his weapon with me." He extended his hand and kept the double-edged axe into his hidden Lewin space. "Let's go. There are puppet beasts here. Could this be a forbidden area?" Jean Dia laughed bitterly. "Forbidden area? I have never seen any forbidden area, so I can't give you any advice." The 7 puppet beasts were all smashed into pieces and scattered on the ground. Lei Xingfeng glanced at them and knew that there was no collection value. He said, "This thing seems to be made of steel and is already rusted. There is no chance of winning against the silver-grade puppet beasts. The silver-grade puppet beasts are too strong." Lei Xingfeng said, "It seems that we are close to the key area, or else these puppet beasts wouldn't appear. And I guess they can be considered as steel puppet beasts." Jean Dia said, "Almost everything has decayed, so how could there be steel humanoid beasts here? Unbelievable." Lei Xingfeng said, "There should be more than this. If there are only a few of them, then it's fine. But if there are a lot of them, then it will be troublesome. Let's move forward carefully." The group continued to move forward. From time to time, they would encounter steel puppet beasts. Sometimes there were 2 or 3, sometimes there were 6 or 7. At most, there were 11 steel puppet beasts, but they were all destroyed by the 6 silver-grade puppet beasts, Lei Xingfeng, and the rest did not make a move. Chapter 366. Along the way, Xian Feng spoke. "I've observed that the strength of a steel puppeteer is around the strength of a 1st to 4th ringed true sage, and there's a huge difference in energy." Adding on time, if a steel puppeteer is full of energy and in perfect condition, it should be able to reach the strength of a 7th or 8th ringed true sage. Not bad. Jean Dia smiled. "I can easily take down 7 or 8 of them. It'll be hard to take down 10 of them." Jean Depang said, "Yeah, I can take on 2 of them. Maybe I can take on a few more." After all, a cultivator had many tricks up their sleeves. The steel puppeteers only had one method of attack, which was to use weapons to attack. Tiger Love said, "Is that a wall?" "A wall?" Lei Xingfeng looked up and said, "It should be a wall, right?" He wasn't sure. The 4 of them quickly got closer and saw a shocking scene, a metal wall with a steel mannequin beast every 5 meters. The walls on both sides of the wall stretched as far as the eye could see, and the wall was over 30 meters tall. When Xian Feng and the others got closer, holes appeared on the wall and rows of steel mannequins walked out from them. These steel puppeteers quickly formed a team. Lei Xingfeng looked around and said in shock, "There are at least 500 steel puppeteers." Tiger Love said calmly, "Wrong. There are more than 500. They're still gathering. We can't wait anymore. Either we retreat or attack. We'll fight our way in." Lei Xingfeng said, "Retreat." He didn't know what was going on behind the wall. Of course, he wouldn't be stupid enough to attack. The 4 of them took the 6 silver puppeteers and ran out quickly. Boom, boom, boom. When the steel dolls began to run, the ground began to rumble. These things were too heavy. When they stepped on the ground, heavy footsteps could be heard. And when hundreds of steel dolls ran together, the ground seemed to explode with each step they took. Lei Xingfeng looked back as he ran. Jean Depang said, "Why not?" Jean Dia couldn't help but scold. "Idiot! If we fight under the wall, they'll keep coming out. Are you trying to tire us to death?" Jean Depang immediately understood. He had spent a lot more time thinking about food than fighting, so he was relatively unfamiliar with fighting. In his opinion, no matter who the enemy was, as long as they could sit down and eat the delicious food he cooked, then they would definitely turn into friends. No one could resist his food. Of course, he threw this thought away as far as he could from the steel puppeteers. Once they started fighting, they would probably be beaten to a pulp, let alone eat. They ran very fast. In just a few moments, They were already far away from the wall. Lei Xingfeng calculated that it was about time. He shouted and commanded the silver puppeteers to attack. He didn't expect the 6 silver puppeteers to be able to kill the 500 steel puppeteers. He raised his hand and released another 30 silver puppeteers. He had a total of 36 silver puppeteers. This time, he released all of them. After all, the enemy's numbers were too great. Fortunately, they were all using weapons. If they used skills, they probably wouldn't be able to take it. Fortunately, the gold puppeteers only used physical attacks. Only the gold puppeteers had some long-range skills. However, their main attack method was still physical. The 36 silver puppeteers naturally formed a large circular formation, protecting Lei Xingfeng and the others as they waited for the enemy to attack. 7 of the silver puppeteers had long double-edged axes, while the others were empty-handed. Lei Xingfeng originally wanted to equip them with weapons, but he discovered that the enemy was only interested in the steel puppeteers' weapons. As for the weapons he gave them, they were all thrown to the ground. Lei Xingfeng was speechless. The momentum of 600 steel puppeteers charging together was very frightening. Even seasoned experts like Jean Daya and Tiger Love felt incomparably pressured. However, the silver puppeteers didn't move at all. They quietly waited, incomparably calm. Thinking about it, they weren't humans, but mechanical weapons. It was unrealistic to expect them to feel fear. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the steel puppeteers at the very front rammed into them. In an instant, the 36 silver puppeteers began to spin rapidly. Their speed was simply unparalleled. Lei Xingfeng and the others saw shadows flashing past their eyes. Those were the afterimages created by the silver puppeteers' rapid movements. A thunderous explosion followed by violent crackling sounds and the sound of the steel puppeteers shattering. Lei Xingfeng and the others stood in the center of the circle, dumbfounded as they watched the silver puppeteers madly attack. Although there were many steel puppeteers, their speed was relatively slow. How could they be as fast and accurate as the silver puppeteers? Sparks flew everywhere as steel clashed. Lei Xingfeng said in shock, "If it were us, we would be quickly overwhelmed by the steel puppeteers. Unless we flew, we wouldn't be able to escape." The battle lasted for half an hour. When the last steel doll was grabbed by the ankle, it smashed it into the ground. In just 2 hits, the steel doll was smashed into smithereens. The ground was littered with steel fragments and a large number of double-edged axes. The silver puppeteers didn't wait for Lei Xingfeng's command. They picked up their axes and automatically equipped themselves with weapons. They even placed the double-edged axes at Lei Xingfeng's feet. Their meaning was clear. They wanted him to put them away. Lei Xingfeng found it funny. These silver puppeteers seemed to know what they were doing. Jean Daya laughed. "What clever fellows." Jean Depang said, "It's a pity there aren't enough of them. If there were 500 of them, we could directly kill our way into the city walls." Lei Xingfeng said, "Stop dreaming. If it weren't for my good luck, I wouldn't have been able to get so many silver puppeteers." Tiger Love looked at the fragments on the ground and said, what a pity for these silver puppeteers." Xian Feng laughed bitterly. "It's hard to tame these mannequin beasts. The steel mannequin beasts here are very different from the silver mannequin beasts. It seems like the mannequin beasts here are more ancient." Jean Daya smiled bitterly and said, "Although we have silver mannequins, there are simply too many of them. 600 steel mannequins came out of nowhere. If there were tens of thousands of them, we would probably have to run." Lei Xingfeng thought about the silver puppeteers rushing at them and felt a chill in his heart. He said, "Let's take it one step at a time. We'll lure them bit by bit and then destroy them bit by bit. One day, we'll be able to exhaust them." Jean Daya said, "Okay, let's do it again." Depang Step back. This time, don't follow us to lure the enemy. Jean Depang also knew he was a burden. He nodded and said, "Okay, I'll leave first. I'll go prepare some food. When you're tired, you can come and rest." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. "You're a glutton." "Okay, I agree with this method. Keep it simple. Don't make it too complicated. Of course, delicious food is a must." Jean Depang left in high spirits and ran off to a faraway place to cook. Originally, he was a bit unwilling, but now he had long forgotten about it. He was thinking about what to cook for dinner. As for the battle, it would be best if he could avoid it. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "This time, Uncle Tiger is going to lure the enemy with 8 silver puppeteers. Right now, we can only lure them bit by bit. If it weren't for the silver puppeteers, we wouldn't be able to afford it." Jean Dia said, "This time, let's go all out and destroy as many of these steel puppeteers as possible." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Okay, let's lure the steel puppeteers out and destroy them. Then we can enter the city walls. I want to see what this place is and why it's so strange." Tiger Love ran over with the silver puppeteers. Jean Dia said, "I wonder how many steel puppeteers we can lure this time." Lei Xingfeng said, "It shouldn't be too many." Just now, the 4 of them and 6 silver puppeteers attracted more than 600 steel puppeteers. This time, there was only 1 person and 8 silver puppeteers, so the number of steel puppeteers attracted shouldn't be much more than before. Moments later, the sound of rumbling footsteps could be heard. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia looked at each other, a trace of surprise in their eyes. This was because the sound was too loud, much louder than before. Then they saw Tiger Love running at the front, with 8 silver puppeteers behind him. Behind them were the steel puppeteers. Lei Xingfeng said, "Holy *T. How many steel puppeteers are there?" Jean Dia was also shocked. He said, "Holy *T. At least 1,000. This is crazy. It's doubled. Afong, do we fight or run?" Lei Xingfeng hesitated for a moment, then said, "Where can we run to?" "Fight." Jean Dia laughed bitterly and said, "All right, I'll do my best." He wasn't confident. There were too many steel puppeteers, so many that he couldn't attack. This was the so-called human wave tactic. For this, Xian Feng released a gold-level mannequin beast. Jean Dia knew that Lei Xingfeng had 3 gold puppeteers. He asked, "Why don't you release all of them?" Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. "That thing consumes a lot of energy. Gold puppeteers required sky evolution crystals. This thing was too precious, and he really couldn't bear to use it." As they spoke, Tiger Love had already flown back. The 8 silver puppeteers quickly returned to the formation, forming a large circular formation. This time, each silver puppet held a long double-edged axe in its hand, staring at the steel puppeteers that were charging over. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to fly into the air, so he said, "Lift me up." The gold puppet quickly lifted Lei Xingfeng up and let him step on its shoulders. When the steel puppeteers were about to crash into the circular defensive formation, he roared and Lei Yin flew out of his body. In an instant, countless electric currents shot out. The dazzling light made Jean Dia and Tiger Love squint their eyes. The electric currents hit the steel puppeteers, creating a series of crackling sounds. Electric arcs jumped wildly on their bodies, and in an instant, the steel puppeteers that were originally charging wildly lost their footing. The steel puppeteers that weren't affected by the electric currents behind them were still charging wildly. Suddenly, there was a series of explosions, and the entire current of steel puppeteers was in chaos. Chapter 367. At the same time, the silver puppets launched their attacks. 3 silver puppet beasts suddenly cut into the group of steel puppet beasts. They swung their long double-edged axes at high speed, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Instantly, another 3 silver puppet beasts rushed in, and the previous 3 silver puppet beasts had already retreated. The whole circle spun rapidly, and the 3 silver puppet beasts continued to cut into the steel puppet beasts. Like a small knife peeling off a layer of skin, the steel puppet beasts were quickly shaved off. Lei Xingfeng kept sending out electric currents. He couldn't break the steel puppets, but the powerful electric currents could slow down their movements and reduce their attack power quickly. This would disrupt the formation of the steel puppets. He even used the chaos wheel from time to time. Once the chaos wheel was used, the steel puppets couldn't withstand it. One hit was enough to shatter a steel puppet into pieces. Tiger Love and Jean Dia didn't make a move. They just stood on both sides of the gold puppets. It wasn't that they didn't want to fight, but that they couldn't. The circular formation formed by the silver puppets was spinning too fast. If they rushed in recklessly, they would be hit by the silver puppets, which would destroy the entire attack formation. This time, the steel puppets were twice as many as the previous ones. They looked like they were covering the sky and the earth. One had to know that thousands of steel puppets were huge. When they surrounded and attacked, even Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but tremble. That was why he couldn't help but attack. Jean Dia saw a glimmer of hope. He said, "This batch of steel puppets are weaker than the previous batch." Tiger Love was also observing. He said, "That's right. I even found a few steel puppets that were missing arms and metal armor. If they were brand new steel puppets, even if we can win, those silver puppets would be damaged." Jean Dia said, "We won't necessarily suffer losses, but there's a chance that the steel mannequins will charge in and the entire formation won't be able to maintain." Lei Xingfeng stood on the gold puppet beast's shoulder and stared at the steel puppet beasts. From time to time, he would release the chaos wheel. A silver light would flash and instantly destroy a steel puppet beast. He would sometimes use the chaos wheel, and sometimes he would use violent lightning to help the silver puppet beasts maintain a perfect formation. This prevented the steel puppet beasts from concentrating their power and forcefully attacking. In just a few moments, the ground was filled with broken steel puppet beasts. An hour later, more than 1,000 steel humanoid beasts were all destroyed. Lei Xingfeng did a quick check and found that he had no choice but to use the Heaven Divination Crystal to replenish the energy he had expended. The silver humanoid puppet was originally full of energy, but after 2 battles, it had expended nearly a quarter of its energy. This made Lei Xingfeng's heart ache. With so much energy, it was equivalent to using the Heaven Divination Crystal to open a secret door and make a trip to outer space. Looking at the broken metal parts on the ground, Lei Xingfeng said, "What a pity! If only I knew how to collect these steel puppet beasts. Then I would have profited greatly. They are the best cannon fodder. If one had steel puppet beasts while exploring the outside world, they could use them in dangerous places. Even if they were destroyed, one wouldn't feel any pain." However, everyone knew that this mission was too difficult. As long as the steel puppet beasts had energy, it would be extremely difficult to capture and unravel their secrets. During the battle just now, Lei Xingfeng had discovered that once the limbs were broken, the steel puppet beasts would rapidly disintegrate into a pile of useless parts. There was no way to capture them completely. Jean Dia shook his head. "There's no way to capture them." Tiger Love said, "It doesn't matter if we capture them or not. The main thing is to figure out what secrets are hidden here. I've always been curious. The changes here are simply too miraculous." At this time, the green sprouts on the ground had already grown. Some of them had even grown to a foot tall. At a glance, it was overflowing with spring. How long had it been? The plants here could actually grow to such an extent. It was simply inconceivable to the extreme. Lei Xingfeng said, "No matter what, we have to figure out the situation here. I keep having the feeling that this place is related to the outer space. In fact, this place is even more ancient than the outer space. From the looks of these steel puppet beasts seem even simpler than the ones I obtained from the Forbidden Area. They seem to be the earliest steel puppet beasts, while our steel puppet beasts are the upgraded versions. The materials used, the energy used, and the design concept of the silver puppet beasts were much better than the steel puppet beasts. As for the gold puppet beasts, they were even more powerful." This was something that Lei Xingfeng understood very well. Tiger Love said, "Should I go and lure the enemy again?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "Let's go and rest for a while and eat something while we're at it." Jean Dia laughed. "With Fatty here, there will always be good food to eat. Let's go, I'm hungry too." Lei Xingfeng put away the gold puppet beasts and the 30 silver puppet beasts, leaving only 6 silver puppet beasts as guards. He had always been very careful about this, and always kept enough guards outside. This place was simply too strange. Without a certain level of protection, he would feel uneasy. The 3 of them walked to the back, and soon saw Jean Depang busying himself. This fellow had placed a large table on the ground, 3 chairs, and a large copper pot. He was using oil wood to cook a large pot of mixed vegetables. This was Lei Xingfeng's favorite cooking method. It was simple and delicious, and Jean Depang had long since learned it and carried it forward. Jean Depang laughed. "Good fella, I'm still cooking and I can already hear the rumbling. Did you win?" Tiger Love laughed. "Nonsense, if we couldn't win, would we have been able to come over?" Lei Xingfeng said, "We were in for a good fight. If it weren't for the gold puppet beasts, we wouldn't have been able to do anything." He knew very well that with the strength of the 4 of them, they could only run away from the first wave of 600 steel puppet beasts. If they were to fight head-on, they would probably be beaten to a pulp. Jean Depang laughed. "We'll fight after we're full." Tiger Love said, "Mixed vegetables, hee, I like it." There was no one who didn't like this dish, especially since Jean Depang had improved it a bit. For example, the pot they were currently cooking was dry, roasted mixed vegetables. The so-called dry roasting was to add a small amount of water and oil. The oil Jean Depang used was divided into vegetable oil and animal fat, which were mixed together and heated up. Then, fist-sized pieces of meat were added. This was something Jean Depang had experimented with long ago. He had matched the ratio of fresh meat to salted meat. After the garlic and ginger were fried, the meat was added. Then, all kinds of vegetables and mushrooms were placed on the fire to dry roast. When the aroma overflowed from the lid, the dish was almost ready. Of course, this was only the first step. They could start eating. Halfway through the meal, they had to fill the pot with water and continue cooking. At the same time, they had to add some vegetables, salted meat, and even dried shrimps to make a pot of vegetable soup. According to Jean Depang's instructions, this was like eating 2 dishes of mixed vegetables. They would eat the dry one first, then the soup one. The mixed vegetables were served with sesame seed cakes, which were made by Jean Depang at home. The duck oil sesame seed cake was absolutely delicious. The palm-sized sesame seed cake was crispy, fragrant, and salty. It was not only Jean Depang's favorite, but also Lei Xingfeng's favorite. A large pot of duck oil sesame seed cake was placed on the table. Jean Depang took out a copper basin with charcoal and placed a fine steel wire mesh on it. After lighting the charcoal, he placed the sesame seed cake on the steel wire mesh to heat it up. Lei Xingfeng knew that the duck oil sesame seed cake had to be eaten hot. Otherwise, there would be a faint smell of duck. If it was hot, there would only be a strong fragrance. He picked up a piece of duck oil sesame seed cake and bit off half of it. After chewing a little, he couldn't help but cry out, Good. Delicious. This kind of duck oil sesame seed cake could be eaten in 2 bites. Coupled with the dry roasted meat, the taste was indescribable. It was simply too wonderful. Jean DePang and Tiger Love ate to their heart's content. While eating the sesame seed cake, Jean DePang said, "This sesame seed cake was taught to me by a phone. For the sake of the duck oil used in the sesame seed cake, I specially found people to raise several thousand ducks. Last time, I had to go to senior brother Tung Yuan to get a batch of sesame seeds, which he found in the outside world. This duck oil sesame seed cake really cost me a lot of effort." Tiger Love said, "It's very worth it. This taste is better than any other cake." The black bird finally digested the 3 lightning bolts. It stretched its head out from under its wings and said in a daze, "I'm hungry too." Lei Xingfeng said, "Fatty, bring a plate of raw meat." Jean DePang nodded and said, "No problem." He casually cut a plate of fresh meat and put it on a wooden plate. He handed it to Lei Xingfeng and said, "There's also some wild beef. It's all tenderloin. It should be delicious." For the black bird, delicious food was secondary. The meat it wanted the most was the meat of an astral beast or a ferocious beast. The last thing it wanted was ordinary meat, such as beef or chicken. It might be delicious, but it wouldn't be of any help to it. The black bird's red eyes stared at Jean DePang and said, "Do you have a grudge against this bird?" Jean DePang was shocked. He said, "What's wrong with you?" The black bird said, "Why are you giving me this garbage?" Jean DePang was speechless. He said, "I don't have anything else for you to eat. Of course, if you want to eat, then eat. If you don't want to eat, then forget it." Even a person made of clay would have some temper. He was also unhappy. "You're not my bird. Why should I coax you?" The black bird suddenly exploded. It said, "Jie? You're a bad person. Jie." Lei Xingfeng sighed and said, "This bird has been raised by me. Bird Bud, make do with it." The black bird raised its small head and said, "Jie, I don't want to eat." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, forget it if you don't want to eat. Fatty, put away this plate of meat." Jean DePang stretched out his hand, and the plate of meat disappeared. Suddenly, the black bird went crazy. It cried, Jie, you can't do this. Jie. Lei Xingfeng said indifferently, "It's you who don't want to eat. It's not like I don't want to give it to you. Strange." The black bird cried, "It's not that I don't want to eat, but I don't want to eat this kind of garbage. I want to eat star beast meat." Lei Xingfeng suddenly laughed. He said, "Listen, everyone listen to this bird. It wants to eat star beast meat. Holy **T. What is the meat of an astral beast? That thing is an extremely precious tonic. Even a true monarch may not be able to eat it. You're just a bird, and you want to eat star beast meat. Even in your dreams, you can't do this. Stand aside, I'll give you shit." The black bird wailed and said, Grandpa, you can't abuse your bird." Chapter 368. Lei Xingfeng opened his eyes wide and said, "What did you say?" "That was too unpleasant to hear. I'm abusing my bird? What the **CK is that?" The black bird said, "Your bird is a good bird." Hearing this, Jean Dia, Tiger Love, and Jean DePang's faces all changed. They all tried to keep a straight face and silently looked at the duck oil sesame seed cake in the wooden basin. Then their bodies began to tremble. Lei Xingfeng scolded, "Bastard, shut up. If you say any more nonsense, I'll roast you." The black bird still didn't react and continued to wail, "You can't bully a bird like this. It's not easy for a bird to live. Quack. Really, it's your good bird. What a big bird." Puffed. Jean Dia finally managed to hold back his laughter. However, Jean Depang and sure who couldn't hold it in any longer and burst into laughter. Tiger Love kept shaking his head and laughing wildly. Good bird. Ha, ha, ha. A phone, your bird is a good bird. Ha, ha. Jean Depang laughed until his knees went weak. He sat on the ground and laughed until his belly was under the table. He held his stomach and laughed wildly, saying one word after another. Bird. Ha ha. Good bird. Ha ha. Big bird. Wah ha. Jean Dia was so amused by the two that he couldn't hold back and suddenly laughed wildly. Lei Xingfeng's face turned green. If this guy doesn't know how to talk, then don't talk. This is too embarrassing. The blackbird was unconvinced and said, Quack, what's so funny? You're crazy. Big bird. What's so funny? Bird Butte is not only a big bird, it's also a big blackbird. Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. A big blackbird? What the F***CK? Does this damn bird know what it's saying? Jean Dia and the other two laughed like crazy. Jean Depang laughed so hard that bubbles came out of his nose, and his saliva sprayed far away. A bolt of lightning shot out from Lei Xingfeng's shoulder and hit the blackbird directly. The blackbird trembled and said, Ma, bird hasn't eaten yet. Jie la la, ma. Lei Xingfeng said indifferently, It's no use even if you call for your mother. The blackbird trembled like a withered leaf in the wind and said, That's not mama, that's ma. Aya. So annoying. You're bullying me again. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, Who asked you to be so restless? It's good to be honest. Why do you have such a request? The blackbird felt wronged and said, The bird just wants to eat something delicious. Is there a need to bully the bird like that? Lei Xingfeng thought about it and agreed. Although this bird was noisy, it still performed well at crucial moments. He took out a piece of astral beast meat that was as long as a finger and said, Just one piece. I don't have any more. The blackbird caught it in its mouth and swallowed it quickly. It even muttered, I knew it. Master is the best. Caw. Although it wasn't much, it was still satisfied. It now deeply understood how difficult it was to get a piece of astral beast meat. Jean Depang wiped his tears and said, I'm dying of laughter. This bird is too funny. The blackbird ate a mouthful of astral beast meat and immediately became spirited. This thing was indeed very nutritious, especially for the blackbird. It said, You're dying of laughter? Why don't you die? Damn fatty. You're pissing me off. The blackbird exploded again. Jean Depang wouldn't get angry with a bird. After quarreling so many times, he knew that if he got angry, the bird would be happy. Therefore, everyone around Lei Xingfeng knew that this blackbird was a tortoise. It wouldn't let go once it bit down. I can't be bothered with you. Jean Depang flipped the duck oil sesame seed cake on the wire net and drank the thick soup. The blackbird helped Lei Xingfeng comb his hair and said, Master, let this bird rest for a day. Caw. Lei Xingfeng said, Up to you. Think about it yourself. The blackbird cawed, twice proudly, and didn't say anything else. There was one thing that the blackbird understood very well. It was only when everyone was idle that they could bicker. Even if it made people unhappy, it wasn't a big problem. However, during critical moments, such as during a battle, it was best not to talk or do anything. Because the blackbird was very tactful, no one disliked its existence. A blackbird that could talk could bring joy to everyone in their leisure time, especially a blackbird with such personality. The three of them were very satisfied with the meal. Even Lei Xingfeng praised Jean Depang's cooking. It was definitely better than what he made in his previous life. Lei Xingfeng said, Let's continue. The three of them brought the 6 silver tier beast puppets back to the place where the previous battle took place. Jean Dia said, I'll do it this time. He led the 6 silver tier beast puppets and ran towards the city wall. Lei Xingfeng and Tiger Love waited in place. Of course, Lei Xingfeng still released 30 silver tier beast puppets. They were now his best weapon for group fights. He didn't release the gold tier beast puppets for the time being. Once they were activated, they would consume a lot of energy. He was a little reluctant to use the Heaven Divination Crystal. Once the Heaven Divination Crystal was used up, these gold tier beast puppets would be useless. Soon, the rumbling of footsteps could be heard. Tiger Love said, "They're here." Lei Xingfeng was stunned. "What the F *CK? What is this?" Tiger Love was also stunned. He stared at the gold tier beast puppets in the distance and said, "Why are they all swaying?" Ugh. Jean Dia returned with the 6 silver tier beast puppets. He said, "I think all the gold tier beast puppets that can move are here." "Ha! They're all crooked." There were about 2,000 steel beast puppets, and their clanking noises were accompanied by heavy footsteps. Along the way, there were also countless steel beast puppets lying on the ground. As they walked, they stopped moving. Only a few hundred steel beast puppets were able to catch up. Without waiting for Lei Xingfeng's orders, the 36 silver tier beast puppets attacked. This spontaneous attack was due to the remnant orders from the last time. With the strength of the 36 silver tier beast puppets, they quickly destroyed the gold tier beast puppets that pounced on them. Lei Xingfeng, Tiger Love, and Jean Dia didn't make a move. They quietly watched as the gold tier beast puppets were destroyed. There were still some gold tier beast puppets that came over with difficulty. Some had broken arms, and some had broken legs. Even if they were crawling, they still persevered. Jean Dia said, "This should be the last batch. They're all trash." Tiger Love said, "Yes, I saw the situation on the city wall. Those that can move are all here. Those that can't move might never move." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go take a look. Let Fatty come with us." Jean Dia shouted a few times, and Jean Depang ran over. When they arrived at the city wall again, Lei Xingfeng looked up and saw that there were still countless gold tier beast puppets standing on top of the city wall. Because they were a little far away, he couldn't see the details clearly. However, one thing was very clear. These gold tier beast puppets couldn't move. Lei Xingfeng flew up the wall. In an instant, he was standing on top of the city wall. Only then did he realize that the gold tier beast puppets standing on top of the city wall had all rusted away. Jean Dia said, "There's a short tower over there." Lei Xingfeng said, "That's a pile of destroyed buildings. Only this short tower is still standing. I think it used to have a spire." Tiger Love said, "Let's go take a look." "Hee, I'm looking forward to it." The 4 of them quickly ran towards the short tower. Lei Xingfeng's heart was just as Tiger Love had said. He was looking forward to it. A few minutes later, the 4 of them stood under the short tower. Only then did they realize that the short tower was completely made of metal. However, it was already covered in rust, and a strong smell of rust assaulted their nostrils. They could clearly see that there were some metal components left behind by the surrounding collapsed buildings. The other parts had been completely turned into ashes. Looking carefully, they could even see the roads hidden in the ruins. These roads were also made of metal, but they were almost completely rusted away. It was very difficult to see the whole picture. This was a very large residential area, but it was basically completely destroyed. They could see very few metal buildings still standing, but most of them were rotten beyond recognition. Only the short tower was still standing due to its huge size. Jean Depang was puzzled. Why are there still so many mobile steel humanoid beasts on the city walls? Tiger Love said, "Those should be the steel humanoid beasts sealed in the city walls. According to my estimation, if they were intact, we wouldn't be facing just a few thousand steel humanoid beasts. It's very likely that there would be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of them. Moreover, there should be differences in their professions. I saw a steel humanoid beast holding a rusted longbow. Jean Daya added, Yeah, I also saw a steel humanoid beast holding a shield. Unfortunately, only half of the shield is left. Hee hee. Lei Xingfeng had long since noticed this. He knew very well that there was an extremely powerful steel humanoid beast army here. If there was someone to command them, they would be completely finished. Even if he took out 3 gold humanoid beasts, it would still be the same. The enemy would just use numbers to swallow them up. This short tower should be very important. Lei Xingfeng guessed. Jean Daya rubbed his chin and pondered. After a while, he said, Why are you thinking so much? Let's just go in and take a look. Lei Xingfeng said, That's true. All right, let's go in. Let's see where the door is. Tiger Love had already circled around. He said, No way. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. No way? Holy sh*T. Let's go to the top of the short tower. Although it was called a short tower, it was still 50 to 60 meters tall. Therefore, it was impossible to see the top from the bottom. Lei Xingfeng leaped up and reached the top in an instant. He smiled and said, Sure enough, there is an entrance from the top. Because the building at the top had all disappeared, a small entrance was revealed. It was 2 meters long and wide. It was dark below, and nothing could be seen clearly. Lei Xingfeng turned around and pointed at a silver humanoid beast. You go in. The silver humanoid beast jumped down without hesitation. There was a rumbling sound below, and then the footsteps became lighter and lighter. Lei Xingfeng knew that the silver humanoid beast had gone deep inside. Boom! The whole short tower shook, and then there was a continuous rumbling sound. Lei Xingfeng said, Oh no, there is something below fighting with my humanoid beast. Let's go down. At this time, he couldn't care less. Although he had 36 silver humanoid beasts, he couldn't afford to lose even one. Jean Daya was very calm. He said, Bring the others. Lei Xingfeng turned around and pointed at the entrance. Go down and help. The other 5 silver humanoid beasts jumped down. Lei Xingfeng followed closely behind. Chapter 369. Tiger Love jumped down as well. Jean Daya was a little late. He said, Fatty, stay here, and jumped into the hole as well. Lei Xingfeng had already released Lei Yin. The surroundings were illuminated by Lei Yin's silver light. They were in a steel room. There was nothing inside except for a corridor in front of them. The sound came from there. This corridor was also a circular corridor. After walking around the periphery, they would enter the next floor. As Lei Xingfeng ran, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Back in the forbidden area, there was a tower that had the same structure. As soon as he reached the lower level, he saw the silver mannequin fighting with 2 steel mannequins. The 5 silver mannequins joined the fray and destroyed the 2 steel mannequins in an instant. Xian Feng was a bit shocked. These 2 steel mannequins were actually able to fight to a draw with a silver mannequin. This was simply inconceivable. He had always thought that a single steel mannequin was weak. He didn't expect it to be this strong. Jean Daya had already seen through the mystery. He said, The steel puppets don't know how to cooperate, but the silver puppets have great teamwork. This is the biggest difference between the 2 sides. Lei Xingfeng agreed. Moreover, the steel puppets are relatively weaker. There were 2 steel puppets on this floor. The entire space was huge. Under the illumination of Lei Xingfeng's Lei Yin, they could see that this floor was at least 1,000 square meters. It was about 7 to 8 meters high. It was a huge space. Tiger Love said, Just 2 steel puppets. There's nothing else. No, there's a box over there. There were about 50 large boxes made of steel. Each of them was about 3 meters long, 1.5 meters high, and 2 meters wide. Xian Feng waved his hand, and the 6 silver rank mannequins lifted a gigantic chest and threw it down. With a loud bang, the gigantic chest was thrown down from a pile of chests. One of the silver puppets stepped forward and used his long axe to pry open the lid. Bang! Crack! The metal cover that was 1 centimeter thick was forcefully pried open and thrown away by the silver puppet beast. Lei Xingfeng then went forward to take a look. Jean Dia was 1 step ahead of him. He exclaimed in surprise, "Holy sh*T! This is the steel humanoid beast." He was so excited that he blurted out Lei Xingfeng's catchphrase. It was an undamaged steel humanoid beast. There was still a thick layer of grease on its body. It had basically dried up and formed yellowish-brown spots. Lei Xingfeng reached out and removed one of the yellowish-brown spots. Immediately, a metallic gleam was revealed. In other words, this was a brand new steel humanoid beast. On one side of the box was a holder with a metal longbow and a box of metal arrows. Each of these metal arrows was similar to a spear. Lei Xingfeng felt dizzy just looking at them. If he was not careful, even a 9th ring sage like him would not be able to handle it. This was 2F * King Insane. After a careful count, there were a total of 53 large chests, each of which contained a steel mannequin beast. All of them were brand new with no signs of being activated. Xian Feng happily kept them and spoke. "Let me slowly study them. With the example of the silver and gold mannequins, I believe that I'll be able to find the mystery behind them. Although he had destroyed countless steel humanoid beasts, they were all half crippled and did not have enough energy. Just like the gold humanoid beast he had encountered before. It looked ordinary, but when it was fully charged, its strength was shocking. The steel humanoid beast should be slightly weaker, but under his control, the situation would be completely different. 53 steel mannequin beasts. This harvest made Xian Feng incomparably happy. This time in the avocado swamp, relying on the mannequin beasts, he could practically do whatever he wanted. The mannequin beasts were indeed very useful. Jean Dia said, "I wonder if there are more on the next level?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I hope there are as many as possible." Tiger Love said, "I'm just afraid that we can't find the energy to activate them. I wonder if the Yin rings can be used." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "We can only go back and test it out." Jean Dia said emotionally, "With so many steel humanoid beasts to help, whether it is exploring or building a home, they will be the best assistants." Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "Building a home, that will be difficult. However, it is still possible to get them to help. It's just not worth it. The energy used and the results obtained are not equal unless I find a way to produce sky divination crystals." Jean Dia knew about sky divination crystals. He could not help but smile bitterly. Forget it. If we can produce sky divination crystals, we probably won't be able to keep our hidden sect. At that time, countless experts will come to force us. Lei Xingfeng said, "The prerequisite is I have to become a Tao Lord." Jean Dia and Tiger Love looked at each other. Both of them were shocked. After being in the hidden sect for a long time, they knew what being a Tao Lord meant. It meant a top-level hidden sect. This hidden sect was the strongest in the world. Tiger Love sighed. "I hope I can live to see a Feng become a Tao Lord." That's too difficult. Let's think about how to become a true Lord. We can't do anything about this. We can only count on a Feng. Lei Xingfeng nodded. "I've already started preparing. However, I still have some questions. I don't dare to advance so quickly. You know that I just reached the peak of 9th ring sage. I still need some time to adapt." Jean Dia nodded in understanding. He said, I reached the peak of ninth ring a long time ago. Unfortunately, after so many years, I've become less and less confident. Until now, I've only been trying to prolong my life. Ha! I won't be able to become a true lord in this lifetime. What a pity. Tiger Love said, how can there be so many regrets? How many people can cultivate to ninth ring sage? Not even 1 out of 10 cultivators can reach the ninth ring. If it weren't for the Een ring, you'd be at most a third or fourth ring cultivator. You might not even be able to reach this level. Ha! You're already very lucky to have your current achievements. Jean Dia laughed bitterly. He knew that Tiger Love was right. He sighed. Sigh, I know. But when I see a genius like a foam, I still feel disappointed. Lei Xingfeng said, let's go. Ha! Let's go to the next level. If there are more steel mannequins, we'll be rich. The 3 led the 6 silver mannequins to the next level. Of course, the 6 mannequins walked at the front. After a while, the 6 silver mannequins entered the next level. Then, they heard the sound of fighting. Lei Xingfeng walked in and saw the 6 silver mannequins beating the 4 steel mannequins. Everyone was holding a long double-edged axe. They were competing to see who was stronger. The silver mannequins were obviously better. Every time they swung, the steel mannequins were forced back. Plus, the silver mannequins were good at teamwork. In just a few seconds, one of the steel mannequins was broken into pieces. Lei Xingfeng stopped paying attention to the battle and looked around to see if there were any treasures. This space was bigger than the previous level. Lei Xingfeng saw a row of steel mannequins. He couldn't help but laugh. There really are, Jean Dia said. Look over there. Lei Xingfeng turned around and saw a row of steel mannequins sitting against the wall. However, they were all motionless. He said, they must have used up all their energy. Ha! We got lucky again. As he spoke, the 4 steel mannequins were cut into pieces. All kinds of metal pieces scattered on the ground. The 6 silver mannequins retreated to the side of the 3 in a protective formation. There were a total of 120 steel mannequins. They pried open one of the steel mannequins. However, they were equipped with metal shields and huge single-edged axes. The axes were very exaggerated. The blades were 1 meter long. The shields were also exaggerated. They were 2.5 meters tall and at least 4 centimeters thick. The edges of the shields were sharp. If they were swung, even a 9th ring sage wouldn't be able to block it. This time, Lei Xingfeng didn't open them one by one. Instead, he put them into his hidden Luan space. There were 6 steel mannequins sitting against the wall. They probably used up all their energy. However, their parts weren't rusted. It probably had something to do with the space of the short tower. It was very dry here. Lei Xingfeng also put away the 6 steel mannequins. He calculated that he had collected a total of 179 steel mannequins. It was a great harvest. Lei Xingfeng laughed. Continue, continue. Ha! It would be great if there were more. Jean Dia said, maybe this is a warehouse. It's used to store finished steel mannequins. Lei Xingfeng laughed. If that's the case, we're really rich. Ha! I didn't expect there to be steel mannequins outside of the forbidden area. Although they're not as good as the ones in the forbidden area, they're still very strong. The 6 silver mannequins led the way. The 3 of them followed behind and continued down the corridor. This time, they didn't encounter any steel mannequins. When Lei Xingfeng and the rest entered this floor, they found a large number of metal boxes. Lei Xingfeng, Tiger Love, and Jean Dia looked at each other and smiled. This time, there were even more metal boxes. Very quickly, Lei Xingfeng cleared them out. There were a total of 180 metal boxes. They were all sealed steel mannequins. After collecting the 180 metal boxes, there were 6 small metal boxes that were 1 meter long and half a meter wide. Jean Dia said happily, "Of Feng, there's a special metal box here. I don't know what's inside." Lei Xingfeng looked at the small metal box and said, "Open it and take a look." After prying open the small metal box, there were crystals arranged neatly inside. Lei Xingfeng looked at them for a long time, but he couldn't recognize what they were. They were all transparent and colorless hexagonal crystals. They were similar to the Sky Evolution crystal, but Lei Xingfeng was sure that they weren't the Sky Evolution crystal. Jean Dia guessed these should be for the steel mannequins. Tiger Love said, "I guess so too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the same pile. Also, these things should be worth a lot." Xi and Feng spoke. "Let's not care about that for now. We'll talk about it after we keep it." Jean Dia said, 360. No, it's 359 steel mannequins. Haha. If we can use these crystals to activate these steel mannequins, we'll definitely make a fortune this time. Lei Xingfeng was shocked. He said, "Wow, 359 steel mannequins. Hee, we've really struck it rich." However, seeing how many steel mannequins we encountered before, these shouldn't be much. Chapter 370. Previously, there were hundreds and thousands of steel puppets. If not for the fact that most of the steel puppets were damaged due to the passage of time, Lei Xingfeng would have a hard time entering the city walls. Unless he spent a lot of time to slowly exhaust the steel puppets, it would be impossible for him to enter the city walls. The 3 of them continued to walk downwards. There were still 6 silver puppets in front of them. The 6 silver puppets entered the next level, and Lei Xingfeng and the rest followed. This time it was different. There was light on this level, and there was a metal platform in the middle. For 1 meter tall steel pillars formed a square space, and a wisp of flame mysteriously floated in the middle of the steel pillars. The flame was silver white, like mercury. It did not look like a flame at all, but Lei Xingfeng only needed a glance to know that it was a flame. However, no one could understand what kind of flame it was. Similarly, no one knew why the flame was floating there. On top of Lei Xingfeng's head, Lei Yin flickered with electric arcs. The closer he got to the flame, the more excited Lei Yin seemed. Tiny bolts of lightning actually struck the steel pillars, making crackling sounds. This made Lei Xingfeng suspicious. He said, "What a strange feeling. It seems like Lei Yin is interested in the flame." Jean Dia said, "That lightning was directed by you?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "That was spontaneous. I did not direct it." As he spoke, he took a few more steps forward. At this time, he was less than 2 meters away from the metal platform in the middle. Suddenly, Lei Yin flew out from Lei Xingfeng's head and floated above the steel pillars. In the blink of an eye, countless bolts of lightning struck the 4 steel pillars. This force was so strong that it melted the steel pillars in an instant. Without the steel pillars' restraint, the flames suddenly shot up and entered Lei Yin. The 3 of them were stunned. Lei Xingfeng was even more surprised. He said, "What does that mean?" Jean Dia said, "I don't understand." Tiger Love said thoughtfully, "There should be benefits. Try taking back Lei Yin." Lei Xingfeng hesitated for a moment before retrieving Lei Yin. When Lei Yin entered his body, Lei Xingfeng felt a burst of heat. However, Lei Yin was his origin seal, so he could completely control it. Even if there was one more thing, he could still control it. Jean Dia and Tiger Love looked at Lei Xingfeng nervously. Lei Xingfeng closed his eyes, and after a while, his face lit up with joy. He said, "I'm not sure what it is exactly, but it's definitely a good thing. I seem to have gained an additional attribute. Fire attribute. It should be Thunder Fire attribute now." Lei Xingfeng said again, "Strange. What kind of flame is this? It has such a huge effect. It's unbelievable. Jean Daya and Tiger Love looked at each other. This was too strange. Lei actually gained an additional attribute after absorbing this strange flame. What was this? Lei Xingfeng said, I still need to slowly figure it out. There's not enough time. Jean Daya said, then take it slow. Ask the founder later. Maybe he knows what kind of flame this is. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, yes, we can only ask the founder. I don't think even Master knows. Other than the silver flame, there was nothing else on this floor. The empty area was larger than the previous floor. Tiger Love looked around and said, it's a pity that there are no steel puppet beasts here. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, how can there be so many good things? This flame, I have a feeling that it's something good. This time, we really earned a lot. Hee, it's not much worse than the forbidden area. Jean Daya couldn't help but sigh. A Feng, the conditions of secret sect, disciples like you are really too good. You can go to all kinds of places to search for treasures, have powerful elders to support you, and control powerful forces. Hee, it's really enviable. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, it's just good luck, hee. Tiger Love said, don't be jealous. This is innate. If a Feng didn't have such strong potential, he wouldn't have been able to enter the secret sect. The innate difference would naturally pull out the difference in levels between cultivators. This was how the world worked. Once good aptitude and potential were discovered, other cultivators would be left in the dust. There was no point in being envious. Lei Xingfeng said, let's continue. Hee, the deeper we go, the more I look forward to it. The three of them went down again. The 6 silver puppet beasts were still in front of them, Xi and Feng, and the rest were already very relaxed. Up until now, they hadn't met any real threats. Those half-dead steel mannequins, under the attacks of the silver mannequins, couldn't hold on for long. If they didn't have the help of the silver mannequins, it would take a long time for them to enter. Of course, with their methods, they would be able to enter in the end. In fact, Lei Xingfeng was still a little annoyed. He didn't know if other cultivators had entered this place. Once they entered, this place would be open. The more cultivators that entered, the less benefits Lei Xingfeng and the others would get. Moreover, Lei Xingfeng vaguely felt that the opening of the avocado swamp might have something to do with this world. As for what the connection was, he wasn't sure. Anyway, he only had one thought, and that was to get as many benefits as possible. Once this world was full of cultivators, he probably wouldn't get any benefits. Boom, boom, kacha, kacha. Lei Xingfeng's body swayed slightly. The entire metal tower shook violently. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, quick. This kind of shaking was definitely caused by the silver puppet beasts fighting. As for what it was, he didn't know. Perhaps it was the steel puppet beasts, or perhaps it was something else. This time, it was Jean Daya who released the seal. Rays of light shot out in all directions, illuminating the lower level. He couldn't help but curse. Motherf asterisk cur. What the hell is this? The steel spider had 2 gigantic pincers. Just this thing that looked like a giant spider had forced the 6 silver puppet beasts into a panic. They had to dodge the 2 terrifying pincers. The pincers were like a pair of giant metal scissors. Kacha sounds echoed out. If they were caught by the pincers, they would probably be cut in half. This steel spider was simply too big. It had 8 long metal legs and 3 sharp blades at the tip of each leg. Each of the metal legs was as thick as a bucket. Its body was flat, and hidden behind the 8 long metal legs, the 2 front pincers were even more terrifying. Just the length of the pincers alone was 4 meters. The inside of the pincers was flashing with silver light, and it was obvious that it was incomparably sharp. The height of this level was obviously different from the previous one. It was about 12 to 13 meters high. The steel spider's body wasn't that big, but its 8 legs took up a lot of space. Together with the 2 long pincers, it looked even bigger. Compared to humans, the silver mannequin was considered tall and strong. However, compared to the steel spider, it was nothing. What was worse was that the steel spider's 8 legs were like 8 weapons. Once it attacked, its attacks were powerful. The silver mannequin's double-edged axes were all damaged. It could only rely on its lightning-fast speed to dodge the attacks. If it tried to fight the steel spider head-on, it would be at a disadvantage. Lei Xingfeng knew that the situation wasn't good. He raised his hand and released a thick electric current. Immediately, the steel spider trembled violently. The violent electric current froze it and made it unable to move. The 6 silver puppets took this opportunity to attack, but after a few attacks, they retreated because they couldn't do anything to the steel spider. The double-edged axes in their hands were all shattered. They couldn't hurt the steel spider either. All they could do was leave some marks on its legs. After the steel spider trembled for 10 seconds, it immediately attacked Lei Xingfeng. Its huge body turned, and as it stepped on the metal floor, it started to attack. Lei Xingfeng cursed, F***CK. He raised his hand and released another bolt of lightning. Taking advantage of the giant metal spider, Xian Feng suddenly released 2 gold level mannequins at once. He knew that the silver level mannequins couldn't win against the giant metal spider, not because of how strong the spider was, but because of how thick its metal was. If they couldn't hurt it, then no matter how many silver level mannequins there were, it would be useless. However, the 2 gold puppets were completely different. As soon as they appeared, they rushed towards the steel spider. Taking advantage of the paralysis effect of the electric current, the 2 gold puppets chose to rush onto the steel spider's back. This was the most heavily guarded part of the steel spider. Unfortunately, Lei Xingfeng's electric current had made the steel spider tremble, so it couldn't block the gold puppet's charge. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Let's retreat!" The 3 of them quickly retreated into the tunnel. The 6 silver puppets also retreated. Since they couldn't hurt the steel spider, they didn't want to stay in the same place. They would be restricted and affect the gold puppet's performance. Lei Xingfeng hid at the entrance of the tunnel and secretly peeked inside. The gold-grade doll's body glowed with a golden light, and it attacked the back of the metal spider. Boom, boom, boom. The metal spider spun around on the ground, trying to shake off the gold-grade doll on its back. There were sounds of banging, rumbling footsteps, and clanging sounds of collisions. It was a complete mess inside. Jean Dia asked, "How is it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "This steel spider is too strong. It's as if it's covered in heavy metal armor. It's too strong. If we can't break its defense, there's nothing we can do." Tiger Love said, "It's a gold puppet. It should be able to take care of it." He felt that the gold puppets were invincible. Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know. The 2 gold puppets are attacking the steel spider's back. As long as we can break it, it'll be fine." Wait, they don't have any weapons. Although the gold puppets were strong, they didn't have any weapons. Lei Xingfeng wasn't optimistic about the gold puppets' attacks. He said, "No, we have to send weapons up." As he spoke, Xian Feng took out 2 short, large axes from his hidden Luan space. They were obtained from the previous floor. Even he found it difficult to hold these large single-edged axes. He waved his hand and called over 2 silver-level mannequins, handing them 2 short axes. "Throw them onto the back of the large spider." Jean Dia tried to lift them and couldn't help but click his tongue. "So heavy!" He handed the axes to the silver puppets. He completely gave up on throwing them. Even if he was a 9th ring sage, he couldn't lift such heavy metal objects. Chapter 371. The two silver puppets rushed in with their axes. One of them went to the front to lure the enemy, while the other went to the back of the giant spider and threw the axe in its hand. One of the gold puppets suddenly stood up and reached out to grab the short axe that was rolling towards it. It slashed down fiercely. Boom! At this moment, the silver puppet that was luring the enemy suddenly exerted its strength and ran towards the back of the giant spider. The other silver puppet ran to the front to lure the enemy. When the gold-level puppets obtained the short, single-edged axes, their attack power changed completely. The sharp attacks immediately broke through the back of the metal spider's armor. The two gold-level puppets attacked together, and a crack appeared on the spider's back. Boom, boom, boom. As the crack expanded, the giant metal spider frantically turned in circles. It already had a bad feeling. Finally, one of the gold puppets slashed down with its axe, and the huge axe sank deep into the back of the giant spider. As the axe was pulled out, the giant metal spider's movements slowed down. Then, the other gold puppet slashed down with its axe at the same location as the previous attack. With a loud boom, the entire axe sank deep into the spider's back. Kacha! Kacha! The metal spider that everyone was helpless against was completely paralyzed. Its two remaining pincers waved a few times before finally falling from the sky. With two bangs, the two pincers completely calmed down. Lei Xingfeng laughed. It's done. This thing is 2F** king perverted. Its attack power is fine, but its skin is too thick. I can't even cut it. When he walked in front of the giant metal spider, Lei Xingfeng felt that he was so small. He said, "This is a killing machine. I really don't know how it was made." He reached out and patted the giant metal pincers. They were black and shiny, and only the mouth of the pincers shone with a silver light. If one was bitten by this thing, there was basically no chance of escaping. It could cut one in half without a problem. Even steel was no exception. Tiger Love said, "There are 4 large metal boxes at the back. Hee, I think they contain the giant metal spider." Lei Xingfeng was instantly overjoyed. He actually liked this giant spider very much. Not only was it majestic, but it also had thick skin and strong defense. If he stood on its back and fought with others, he would have a lot of advantages. Jean Dia said, "This metal box doesn't look like it can fit the giant metal spider. Let's pry it open." 2 gold-level mannequins and 6 silver-level mannequins easily pried open a large metal box. Xian Feng jumped to the side of the box and released his lightning stamp to illuminate the area. With just a glance, he couldn't help but laugh. Hee, my luck has always been good. It really is this kind of large metal spider. 8 long metal legs curled up on both sides of its body. How can there be so many benefits? The harvest is already good enough. Lei Xingfeng scratched his head and laughed. "I don't think I'm that greedy. I'm just a little disappointed." Jean Dia said, "Let's continue." Hee, I also want to know how many treasures there are in this short tower." Tiger Love also laughed. "There's nothing in other places except this short tower." Hee, I wonder how many floors there are below." Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know how many floors there are below, but it's definitely higher than this short tower. There should be more underground." According to his understanding, this kind of tower was made entirely of steel. Therefore, it was necessary to develop underground. The tower was built to be stable, so the underground was the foundation. "Let's go down. Let's continue." Hee. With the mannequin beast as the vanguard, he became much bolder. Generally speaking, in such an unfamiliar environment, every step he took was filled with trepidation. However, with the mannequin beast, they could advance without any fear. Even if there were ambushes, traps, or other dangers, the humanoid beast would take care of them. it would not endanger Lei Xingfeng and the others. The humanoid beast's role was highlighted. It was the best assistant in an exploration. Moreover, Lei Xingfeng was really generous in this exploration of the short tower. He directly took out 2 gold and 6 silver level humanoid beasts. No matter what kind of enemy came, it would be enough to deal with them. If they continued to walk down, they would not have to go through the spiral tunnel. Instead, there was a staircase in the middle of this floor that led down. According to Lei Xingfeng's estimation, they should have reached the first floor of the short tower, which was the level with the ground. If they went down further, they would enter the underground floor. This time, the gold-level humanoid beast led the way, followed by the silver-level humanoid beast. Finally, Lei Xingfeng and the other 2 entered. The lower floor was filled with empty metal boxes. They filled up the space, leaving only a narrow walkway. When Lei Xingfeng went down, he was pleasantly surprised. In the end, he found nothing. He looked around and found that they were all huge empty boxes. This disappointed Lei Xingfeng and the others. Soon, they found a door made of steel. They relied on the gold-level humanoid beast to forcefully break it open. This door was about 10 centimeters thick. After forcefully breaking it open, it revealed a passageway that led downwards. As soon as the gold-level humanoid beast entered, an intense battle broke out. The silver-level humanoid beast quickly rushed in, followed by Lei Xingfeng and the others. This was a huge space, about 10,000 square meters. Lei Xingfeng immediately saw 4 large metal spiders and dozens of metal humanoid beasts. There were also hundreds of metal humanoid beasts leaning against the wall. There were also 3 large metal spiders by the wall. However, the metal humanoid beasts and metal spiders leaning against the wall did not move. Lei Xingfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. For large metal spiders, he immediately released a gold-level humanoid beast and 30 silver-level humanoid beasts. In other words, he released all the humanoid beasts that could move. There were 3 gold-level humanoid beasts and 36 silver-level humanoid beasts. Jean Dia was shocked. That many? Tiger Love said, "Let's go." He flew forward. However, he was very smart. He did not attack the large metal spiders. Those things were too abnormal. Just a little bit of them could take away half of your life. Therefore, he attacked the metal humanoid beasts. Jean Dia was stunned for a moment. However, he also reacted and said, "Let's work together." He immediately rushed over to join forces with Tiger Love. Of course, Lei Xingfeng would not just stand by and watch. He also rushed forward. Lei Yin flew out, protecting his body first. Then, he used the chaos wheel. A bolt of lightning mixed with a wisp of flame instantly slashed out with the chaos wheel. With a loud bang, the chaos wheel shattered the 3 metal humanoid beasts in an instant. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He did not expect the chaos wheel to be so powerful. The 4 large metal spiders were the biggest threat. Lei Xingfeng ordered the 3 gold-level humanoid beasts to entangle them. In addition, he also sent a few silver-level humanoid beasts to help. He, Jean Dia, Tiger Love, and the remaining silver-level humanoid beasts went all out to kill the metal humanoid beasts. Jean Dia grabbed the thigh of a metal humanoid beast. With a loud shout, he swung it like a giant hammer. He viciously smashed the metal humanoid beast that was pouncing towards him. The result was that both humanoid beasts were smashed together. However, Jean Dia was also very tired. After smashing a few more metal humanoid beasts, he scurried to the side and supported his legs. He raised his head and gasped for breath. On the other hand, Tiger Love hid behind the silver-level humanoid beasts and launched sneak attacks from time to time. His target was very simple, the heads of the metal humanoid beasts. He had a giant hammer in his hand. Every time he found an opening, he would smash the metal humanoid beast's head. If he was lucky, the metal humanoid beast's head would be smashed off. Tiger Love was very satisfied, especially when he smashed the metal humanoid beast's head with his hammer. He almost never missed. Of course, if it was a frontal attack, it would not be effective. However, if the metal humanoid beasts were dealing with the silver-level humanoid beasts, he would suddenly appear from behind or from the side. The metal humanoid beasts would not be able to block him at all. Chapter 372. On the other hand, Lei Xingfeng's attacks were much sharper. When he realized that the chaos wheel had become abnormally powerful, he chose to face it head-on. He shot out lightning bolts, followed by the chaos wheel's wild slashes. The rhythm was quite tight. A single lightning bolt could freeze the steel doll for a few seconds or even a dozen seconds. Then came the chaos wheel's attack, which basically shattered it with one hit. It could even kill 2 or 3 steel dolls with one hit. Under the storm-like attacks, the number of steel dolls decreased rapidly. In just a few minutes, all the steel dolls that could move had been destroyed. Only 4 metal spiders were still fighting. Lei Xingfeng and the others retreated and watched as the silver and gold dolls worked together to deal with the metal spiders. Lei Xingfeng took out a short-handled single-edged axe and took a few steps forward. With a whistle, a silver dolls retreated and quickly walked to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng handed the short-handled single-edged axe to the silver dolls and said, "There's one more that doesn't have a weapon. Send it over." 3 gold dolls were dealing with 4 metal spiders. Due to the gold dolls' incredible speed, the metal spiders couldn't hit them at all. However, the gold dolls also couldn't hurt their opponents. The metal spiders' 8 thick metal legs were too sturdy. Even with the giant axe, the gold dolls could only leave scratches. They couldn't stop the metal spiders. Lei Xingfeng immediately stepped forward to give orders. After all, regardless of whether it was the gold dolls or silver dolls, their strength was unquestionable. However, their intelligence was questionable. It was easy to deal with simple enemies, but difficult to deal with slightly more complicated situations. Lei Xingfeng shouted, and the 36 silver dolls quickly split into 3 small teams to deal with the 3 metal spiders. Lei Xingfeng didn't ask for much. He only needed to tie down the 3 metal spiders. He didn't need them to kill the metal spiders. The remaining metal spider was Lei Xingfeng's target. He shot out a bolt of lightning and froze the metal spider in place. Although it was only for a few seconds, it was enough for the gold-level puppet to fly up. The 3 gold-level puppets had no problem cutting open the back of the metal spider. After a series of crackling sounds, the spinning metal spider came to a complete stop. After a short while, Lei Xingfeng finished off the remaining 3 metal dolls according to his plan. Jean Dia said, "It's really dangerous. If the 3 of us had barged in, we probably wouldn't have been able to go any further." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, the guards here are very strong. There should be some good stuff here." He kept the damaged metal spiders. As for the shattered metal dolls, he didn't care. He also kept the metal dolls leaning against the wall and the metal spiders that had lost their energy into his hidden Lewin space. These were all his gains. He wouldn't throw them away, no matter what. The 3 metal spiders had only lost their energy. They were basically unharmed. As for the metal spider that had its back cut open, Lei Xingfeng was confident that he could repair it. After all, it was only the back that was damaged and not completely destroyed. Lei Xingfeng waved his hand and said, "This place is very big. Everyone spread out and check it out." With over 10,000 square meters of space and a large number of metal boxes piled up, it was impossible to see the entire space clearly. Of course, there were still many metal boxes that hadn't been checked yet. They didn't know if there was anything inside. The three of them spread out, each taking care of a direction. Although it was over 10,000 square meters, if they ran quickly, they could still check it out quickly. In just a few minutes, the three of them gathered together. There was a secret door in front of them. It was just that this secret door was closed and hadn't been activated. However, they had seen many secret doors. With just a glance, they knew that this was definitely a secret door, and not a door frame. The three of them couldn't help but look at each other. After a while, Lei Xingfeng said, "What does this mean?" "We entered the avocado swamp, then passed through a strange mirror and entered here. This is already the third world. Where does this secret door lead to?" Jean Dia said, "There's an important question. How do we activate this secret door?" Tiger Love also said worriedly, "Yes, I feel that this secret door must contain a big secret." Lei Xingfeng's eyes kept darting around. He was a little hesitant and a little excited. After a while, he said, "Why don't I give it a try?" Jean Dia said, "How?" Tiger Love said, "Why don't we go back and ask a monarch expert to come?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "There's only Junior Master Feng Qinzong at home. Grandmaster and Master have both left. We don't know when they'll be back, so we don't have anyone to rely on." Jean Dia smiled bitterly. "That's troublesome." Lei Xingfeng stared at the secret door for a long time without saying a word. He knew that to open the secret door, other than the Yin ring, one also needed the strength of a monarch. With his current strength, even a peak 9th ring wouldn't be enough to open the door. He didn't know what was behind the secret door or where it led to, but Lei Xingfeng knew very well that this secret door was the key. Tiger Love sighed and said, "Looking at this secret door, I feel that the mystery here can be solved. What a pity, what a pity." Lei Xingfeng touched the secret door unwillingly and carefully observed it. Suddenly, he saw a groove and said, "This shape? I'm very familiar with it. It's... He didn't react for a moment. He felt that there was something in his mind, but he couldn't express it. He anxiously stared at it. Jean Dia said, "This shouldn't be the groove for the Yin ring." This sentence woke Lei Xingfeng up. He slapped his head and said, "Damn it, my brain has been damaged recently. It's not brain matter, it's paste. This groove is too similar to the sky divination crystal." As he spoke, he took out the sky divination crystal and put it in. Jean Dia wanted to stop him, but it was too late. He shouted, "Don't!" Lei Xingfeng was shocked by his shout. His hand trembled, and the sky divination crystal was inserted into the groove. Lei Xingfeng was also dumbfounded. He only wanted to make a gesture, but he didn't expect it to go in just like that. Crack! The sky divination crystal was inserted into the groove, and in an instant it emitted a dazzling light. In an instant, the secret door rippled with a screen of light. This meant that the secret door had been opened. Everyone was stunned, including Lei Xingfeng. He said in surprise and joy, "Damn it, this works too? It's F asterisk king opened, just like that. Ha 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 ha." Jean Dia and Tiger Love looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads. This was too miraculous. They thought that it couldn't be opened, but they didn't expect that a sky divination crystal would be able to open this secret door. Everyone knew that there were countless worlds behind the secret door. Who knew where it would lead to unless someone could locate it? However, only a monarch could do that, and Lei Xingfeng and the other two didn't have that ability. After hesitating for a moment, Jean Dia said, "Should I go and try?" Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. "How do we get back?" Jean Dia shook his head, helplessly. "I don't know, but I really don't want to give up." Tiger Love said, "Should we let the silver puppet beast go in and scout the way?" Jean Dia said, It's no use. The key isn't what's behind the door. It's that we don't have a way to control this secret door, even if it's already opened. Tiger Love gritted his teeth. Giving up is impossible. I'll go in. Without waiting for Lei Xingfeng and Jean Daya to stop him, Tiger Love crashed into the door. Bang! Tiger Love retreated continuously. It was as if he had crashed into a soft wall. A huge force bounced him back. After retreating 5 or 6 steps, Tiger Love was dumbfounded. Jean Daya looked at Tiger Love in disbelief. He also rushed towards the secret door. As expected, he was also bounced back. He couldn't help but shout, "How is this possible?" They couldn't enter the secret door. Lei Xingfeng was also dumbfounded. He smiled bitterly. "All right, since we can't enter, then forget it." As he spoke, he tried to dig out the sky evolution crystal embedded in the door. Who knew that after 2 attempts, the sky evolution crystal wouldn't budge at all? Instantly, Lei Xingfeng's expression changed. If he couldn't get it back, he would suffer a huge loss. Even all the gains this time couldn't compare to this sky evolution crystal. Lei Xingfeng said, "Oh no, I can't F Asterisk King take it out." Jean Daya and Tiger Love looked closer. Their expressions also changed. They both knew how precious the sky evolution crystal was. Jean Daya said, "What should we do?" Lei Xingfeng gritted his teeth. "If there's no other way, I'll F Asterisk King destroy this secret door." In fact, Lei Xingfeng knew that he didn't have the ability to destroy the secret door. One had to know that the secret door had spatial attributes. It was very difficult to attack it. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to damage the secret door at all. Tiger Love said, "Why can't you take it out?" Jean Daya guessed, "Unless you completely control this secret door, you might not be able to take it out." Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. He couldn't dig out the sky evolution crystal even after using all his strength. He took out a dagger and tried to pry it out, but it still didn't budge. He was sweating profusely. He couldn't hide the disappointment on his face. F asterisk CK. Xian Feng's leg flew up and kicked the door, but this kick didn't break the door frame. Instead, it landed on the light screen inside the door frame. At that moment, a shocking scene appeared. His leg actually passed through the light screen. Due to his anger, Xian Feng's kick missed, causing him to lose his balance and fall towards the light screen inside the door frame. Aya! Jean Daya and Tiger Love reached out at the same time. However, things happened too suddenly. The two of them watched as Lei Xingfeng disappeared into the secret door. Lei Xingfeng did go over, but the black bird on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder didn't. It was blocked by the light screen and was directly sent flying. It was the one that cried out. One had to know that its head was hidden in its wings. The moment it was sent flying by the light screen, it let out a scream. Flipping over on the ground, the black bird was confused. Caw! Who? Who hit the bird? Caw! It struggled to flip over and jump on the ground a few times. Only then did the black bird wake up, slightly. It asked, "Where is he? Where did he go?" Caw! Spreading its wings, the black bird hovered 1 meter in front of Jean Daya. It flapped its wings quickly and said, "Where is he? Where did he go?" Jean Daya said unhappily, "I'm not human." Chapter 373. The blackbird said, You're not the person I want. Where is he? Where did he go?" It flew around Jean Daya and Tiger Love twice, but did not see Lei Xingfeng. It was so anxious that it quacked. Jean Daya was anxious, but after all, he was not an ordinary person. He said, "Tiger, we're in trouble this time. What should we do?" Tiger Love smiled bitterly and said, "Wait, what else can we do?" The blackbird shouted, "Hey, where is he?" It was so angry that it waited for an answer. Jean Daya pointed to the secret door. and said, "If you're looking for a phone, I'm telling you, he went in. Don't call anymore." The blackbird did not say anything and crashed into the light curtain. Then Jean Daya and Sure, who saw the blackbird, bounced off the screen like it had hit a trampoline. The speed at which the blackbird hit the screen was the same as the speed at which it was bounced off. A black shadow flashed, and the blackbird hit a large metal box. With a bang, the blackbird slid off the top of the box. The blackbird felt stars in front of its eyes. It said, "Nonsense. Stars, stars, quack." Then it walked a few steps and said, "What's going on? This bird's head is so dizzy, dizzy." Jean Daya and Tiger Love did not look at the blackbird. The two of them looked at each other and felt a little at a loss. What made the two of them feel bad was that Lei Xingfeng's 36 silver-level puppets and 3 gold-level puppets were all left here because he did not have time to take them back. These puppets were still standing guard around. In other words, Lei Xingfeng had no guards around him. Tiger Love said, "We have to go back and find an expert. Maybe they can save a phone." Jean Daya said, "I'll stay here and guard. You go back." Tiger Love smiled bitterly and said, "Oh right, Fatty is still outside. Let him come in." Jean Daya said, "All right, bring him down." Moments later, Tiger Love brought Jean Depang to the bottom floor. Jean Depang said, "Is this the secret door?" He reached out and touched it. "Sure enough, I can't get in." Tiger Love said, "Fatty, you stay here with old Jean. I'll go back and look for him." Lei Xingfeng looked at this space in surprise. This was a white space, a very strange space. It was like a space opened up in the clouds. There was a thick white fog all around, and a secret door was suspended in the middle. He came out from this secret door. Heaving a sigh of relief, Lei Xingfeng wandered around. He found that the white mist was like glue. The deeper he went, the greater the resistance. Soon, he was unable to move forward and had to return to the space. After searching carefully for a while, Lei Xingfeng didn't find anything. Other than this strange secret door, there was nothing else. Just as Lei Xingfeng was about to leave, another accident happened. He couldn't get out. The light screen on the secret door actually bounced back Lei Xingfeng. After several failed attempts, Lei Xingfeng's heart began to tremble. What a joke! This was a sealed space. If he couldn't get out, he would be completely trapped inside. Lei Xingfeng frantically attacked the secret door, trying to open it. However, no matter what method he used, he still couldn't open it. Lei Xingfeng was completely dumbfounded as he sat down next to the secret door. All around him was a vast expanse of white. This space was very strange. The secret door was a square frame suspended in midair. A light screen filled the entire frame of the door. Lei Xingfeng understood that this was the sign that the secret door was open. But why couldn't he pass through? Lei Xingfeng was certain that apart from this secret door, there was no other way out. He even believed that even if he had the ability to break through this space's seal, the result would be even worse. He didn't know what this vast expanse of white mist was, but he knew that it was the key to protecting this space. Once it was broken, who knew what was outside? Sitting in front of the secret door, Lei Xingfeng stared at it. His mind was racing. He couldn't imagine this result. Was he going to be trapped here forever? He couldn't help but smile bitterly. This time, he had played it big. At this moment, Lei Xingfeng saw a groove on the secret door. His heart suddenly moved. When he was outside, the heaven divination crystal was embedded in that groove. Could it be that this secret door was bidirectional? One needed to use a heaven divination crystal on the outside, and the other needed to use a heaven divination crystal on the inside. Immediately, Lei Xingfeng became excited. He thought that he had figured out this secret. The only thing that made his heart ache was that he had lost 2 heaven divination crystals. This was a huge loss. If he couldn't take out the heaven divination crystal on the outside, he probably wouldn't be able to take this one out either. However, if he could use a heaven divination crystal to escape, it was still worth it. It was much better than being trapped in this strange space. Lei Xingfeng gritted his teeth and took out a heaven divination crystal. After a moment of hesitation, he inserted it into the secret door. Instantly, his vision turned black. The entire space was squeezed and contracted. Lei Xingfeng couldn't react at all. He felt his body tighten, and then he completely lost consciousness. Tiger Love hadn't left yet. He saw the secret door suddenly disappear without a trace. It was as if it had completely melted. He stared blankly as the secret door disappeared. He cried out in shock, "Heavens!" This secret door was related to Lei Xingfeng's life and death. It actually disappeared just like that. Jean Daya and Jean Depan were also completely dumbfounded. Jean Daya even walked to the original position of the secret door. After a while, he said with a bitter face, "This is big trouble. What should we do?" Tiger Love was at a loss. He said, "I don't know either." At this moment, a figure appeared at the original position of the secret door. It gradually became clearer. Jean Depan yelled, It's a phone." The 3 people and 1 bird stared dumbfoundedly. They saw Lei Xingfeng's figure become more and more solid. At first, it was a little distorted, as if it was formed by light. However, as time passed, it gradually solidified and became more and more solid. Tiger Love was about to step forward, but Jean Daya pulled him back. He said, "Wait, don't move." Lei Xingfeng's body gradually became clearer and clearer. At first, it was still very illusory and didn't look like a real person. However, in just 10 minutes, it gradually formed flesh and blood essence and a solid body. Jean Daya and the other 2 waited patiently for half an hour. Then they saw Lei Xingfeng open his eyes. The first thing he said was, "Damn, I was bored to death. I'm out." Then they saw Lei Xingfeng jump up and then heard him laugh wildly. "Ha, ha, 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 damn, I've made a fortune. Ha, 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 ha." Looking at the crazy Lei Xingfeng, the 3 people were stunned. After a while, Jean Depan said, "A phone is crazy? A phone crazy?" Jean Daya said, "That seems a little crazy." Tiger Love rolled his eyes and said, "How is he crazy? He just laughed a little too loudly. Seems a little crazy." Lei Xingfeng danced and laughed wildly. After venting for a few minutes, he finally stopped. Then he closed his eyes and stood still as if he was thinking about something. Jean Daya and the other 2 people didn't dare to breathe loudly. They all stared at Lei Xingfeng, afraid that he would continue to laugh wildly. "Ha, ha, 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 ha." Lei Xingfeng suddenly burst into a series of laughter. Everyone couldn't help but laugh, but the 3 people were confused. They didn't know what Lei Xingfeng was laughing about, or why he was laughing so crazily. Blackbird said, "Boss is definitely crazy." Lei Xingfeng finally stopped and said, "I've made a lot of money." Blackbird flapped his wings and circled above Lei Xingfeng's head, then landed on his shoulder and said, "Crazy? No, a phone. No, Uncle a phone, what did you make?" Lei Xingfeng said, "You won't know even if I tell you. You're a bird. It's enough that you can talk. As for thinking, isn't it too difficult for you?" Blackbird shouted, You look down on people." Lei Xingfeng said lightly, "You're not human." Blackbird said with grief and indignation, You look down on birds." Lei Xingfeng nodded with a smile and said, "You're right. Ha ha." He was so happy that he didn't mind bickering with a blackbird. Blackbird found that something was wrong and immediately shut up. It now knew that no matter if Lei Xingfeng was unhappy or happy, it shouldn't talk to him. It was defeated and dejected. Jean Daya carefully asked, "A phone, what's going on?" Tiger Love said, "Yeah, why are you so happy?" Jean Daya said, "Did you find something delicious? Did you find a new ingredient?" For him, only when he found a peerless ingredient would he be so happy. Lei Xingfeng said disdainfully, "You're a foodie, but I'm not. Hee hee, I've made a lot of money this time. I got a very heaven-defying thing. Ha 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 ha." He burst into laughter again. Jean Daya and the other two were speechless. It was the first time they saw Lei Xingfeng lose his composure. Moreover, this guy's laughter was really too nasty. Lei Xingfeng laughed for a long time before he realized that the three of them were looking at him with a straight face. He suddenly felt embarrassed. He touched his nose and said, "Why are you guys so unhappy?" Jean Daya said helplessly, "You have to let us know what you got. Why are you so happy? If we don't know, why are we laughing?" Tiger Love and Jean Daya nodded repeatedly. Tiger Love said, "A phone, what are you so happy about?" Lei Xingfeng couldn't hide the smile on his face. He said, "I got a mirror realm." Ha! He couldn't help but laugh again. Jean Daya hurriedly raised his hand and said, Don't laugh. What's a mirror realm? What's that?" Lei Xingfeng was very patient this time. He said, "Do you know about our secret treasure space?" Jean Daya, Tiger Love, and Jean Daya nodded together. Everyone knew about the secret treasure space. It was the best place to build a secret door. It was a fixed space that could hide many people and items without being disturbed by the outside world. Lei Xingfeng said, "If the secret treasure space is a fixed space and the best place to build a secret door, then the mirror realm is a moving secret treasure space. The one we entered at the beginning was the mirror realm. It was revealed in the avocado swamp because its energy was exhausted. That mirror realm is the entrance. Once the mirror realm is controlled by someone, the entrance will disappear." Chapter 374. This mirror realm that can move according to the owner is actually not very big. It is much smaller than the secret treasure space. Even so, it is still a very big world. This mirror realm is completely under my control. Haha, that is why I am so happy. Lei Xingfeng continued, "This mirror realm has been passed down since ancient times. Its history should be even longer than the outer realm. As for the steel humanoid beast, I have also mastered its production method. We have seen the steel humanoid beast and the giant metal spider. These are just two types. There are a few more types, including the snake-shaped puppet used for reconnaissance. There are also explosive puppets for long-range attacks. They can shoot arrows and steel spears. That is not all. There are also explosive puppets for energy attacks. They can shoot fireballs and rays." Jean Daya and the other two were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "The mirror realm can also automatically absorb energy. Of course, it must be activated to enter this mode. The reason why the mirror realm stopped operating completely was because the activation energy was exhausted. Moreover, the owner of the mirror realm died. That is why the scene we see now appeared." Tiger Love asked, "What will happen if there is energy?" Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. "If there is energy here, we will not be able to move an inch. Of course, it will be even more impossible to enter this place. If there is energy here, this short tower will sink directly into the ground and will not appear at all. In this world, the owner is the real controller. Even if a perfected lord, heavenly lord, or even a Tao lord enters, they will not be a threat to me. Even if I cannot defeat them, I can easily drive them out of the mirror realm." Jean Daya asked curiously, "If you want, well, I mean if, oh, If you die, will the mirror realm appear? Lei Xingfeng shook his head. The mirror realm has already obtained the activation energy. Even if I die, the mirror realm can still operate on its own. Unless the energy is exhausted, it will not appear for at least 100 years. It might even take 1,000 years. Activating the mirror realm and obtaining it cost Lei Xingfeng 2 sky evolution crystals. Although it pained him, it was nothing compared to obtaining the mirror realm. This was a huge gain. Lei Xingfeng said, "The mirror realm is still recovering. Since it has been stagnant for too long, I need to cultivate it." Jean Dia asked curiously, "How?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "It will take some time for me to fully understand the mirror realm. There is no need to explore this place. Realm. Everything is under my control, including the steel, humanoid beast, and metal spiders." Jean Dia, Tiger Love, and Jean Depang finally understood why Lei Xingfeng was laughing like crazy when he came out. Even they would lose their composure if they saw this gain. This was an active base. It could carry all the people and equipment. Moreover, it could obtain an unlimited amount of food, as long as there was someone to grow it. Of course, Lei Xingfeng's safety was guaranteed. If he died, then the people of this world would be finished. Even if it could survive for a few generations, once the energy was exhausted, this world would completely decline. Thinking back to when they first entered this world, the whole world was dead. Everything had turned to ashes. It was clear that this world relied on its master to survive. Jean Dia said, "It doesn't matter if I go in, but I definitely won't settle down here. This thing is a bit scary." Tiger Love and Jean Depang also understood what the mirror realm was. The two of them nodded repeatedly, and trusting an entire world to one person's life was too risky. Jean Dia said, "Can the mirror realm be passed down?" Lei Xingfeng nodded. "It can be passed down, but the requirements are very high. I still haven't fully grasped the mysteries of the mirror realm. I still need time to understand it bit by bit. For now, I can't talk about passing it down." Jean Depang said, "How do we get out?" Lei Xingfeng smiled. "It's easy to get out. Everyone wait a moment." Saying so, he waved his hand. Suddenly, a silver light flashed. Jean Dia only saw a flash of light in front of his eyes. His body floated up and down. This time was very short, almost less than a second. The surrounding environment had completely changed. Jean Depang sighed. "Holy shit, we're out just like that." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "In here, any action can be done with a single thought." Jean Dia couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow, that's amazing." They were right next to the steel wall. Lei Xingfeng raised his hand and released the steel dolls and metal spiders he collected. He said, "Go back. The order has been given." The steel dolls and metal spiders immediately ran off into the distance. Tiger Love couldn't help but ask, "Why did you let them go?" Lei Xingfeng smiled. "They went back to their nest. There's an automatic recovery mechanism there. It's not too bad. After the energy is activated, everything will gradually recover. Look outside, whether it's the trees or the weeds. They're all growing back. Of course, the mirror realm still needs a lot of time to recover. I still need to collect more resources. Some of the resources here have already been used up. For the mirror realm, once it stopped absorbing energy from the outside world, it would gradually decline. The rate of decline was much faster than a normal world. Moreover, the remaining energy would be tilted toward the steel dolls. In other words, these mechanical dolls would be able to obtain energy. This was the real reason why they could maintain a certain level of combat power and not completely decay. Once the mirror realm obtained an energy source and had an owner, the entire mirror realm could operate and begin to absorb a large amount of energy from the outside world. Due to the earliest settings, the entire mirror realm could be restored. Although it would take time, it would change sooner or later. Xian Feng placed the silver and gold ranked mannequins in the mirror world. With his identity as the master, he could easily connect these mannequins to the mirror world. Very quickly, these mannequins were connected to the mirror world. This was a very powerful force that wouldn't affect his usage in the outside world. Jean Daya asked, "How do we get out?" His question was the same as Jean Depang's, which was how to leave the mirror realm. Lei Xingfeng smiled. The mirror realm's passage to the outside world has been closed. After we came in, other people came in as well. There were 2 of them in total, and they were running around in circles inside the mirror realm. When I took control of the mirror realm, I knew of their existence, so I threw them out. They're no longer in the mirror realm. Jean Daya was startled. Someone already came in? Lei Xingfeng smiled. Of course, I wouldn't let them run around in there. Those 2 guys are probably still confused, not knowing why they were thrown out. Jean Daya and the others laughed, secretly amazed at how powerful the mirror realm's control was. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go out." The reason why so many people came to the avocado swamp this time must have something to do with the mirror realm. I didn't expect it to be so convenient for us. However, this also makes us the target of public criticism. If they suspect that we have the mirror realm, it will be very troublesome. Jean Daya nodded. Maybe there are already many people outside. Should we wait for a while before going out? Tiger Love objected. That's not good, because if we drive out 2 ninth ring sages, they will definitely spread the news. At that time, it won't be just ordinary people waiting outside. There will be a large number of experts waiting outside. Lei Xingfeng nodded in agreement. That makes sense. Unfortunately, we can't go elsewhere this time. You should know that the mirror realm has a secret door. I can be considered a person who has a secret door before becoming a monarch. Jean Depang curiously asked, "If you become a monarch, what will happen to the secret door?" Xian Feng spoke. "I already know that. I just need to fuse them. I'll have a moving secret door, but the fixed door will fuse with the mirror dimension's secret door and become one. At that time, I'll truly obtain the inheritance of the mirror dimension. Perhaps I'll be able to obtain quite a few ancient inheritances." Jean Daya was overjoyed. "That's a scary harvest." If that's the case, your strength should increase a lot, right? Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Yes, it should increase a lot. I have this feeling now because the mirror realm has fused with me. Although I can only control the mirror realm at the moment, I can already borrow a little of its power. One of its biggest uses is to protect myself. I haven't tried it, but I know that this protective power is completely different from using Lei Yin's power." Jean Daya couldn't help but shake his head. "Is there such a good thing? Sai, your luck is simply heaven-defying." Lei Xingfeng sometimes doubted that his luck was indeed heaven-defying if he came to the mirror realm this time. Even if he reached the secret door, he wouldn't be able to enter without the sky divination crystal. If he didn't have a second sky divination crystal, then he would be completely trapped and unable to control this extremely precious mirror realm. He smiled. Maybe luck is better than no luck. I really enjoy this kind of luck. Jean Daya and the other 2 laughed. Xian Feng's luck was their luck. If Xian Feng was strong, they would be strong. If Xian Feng was weak, they would be weak. This was without a doubt. No one wished for Xian Feng's strength to be weak. If Xian Feng's strength was weak, then they would be in trouble. Hidden sects were all about loyalty. There were very few people in the hidden sects who betrayed. This was the common understanding of all hidden sects members. Of course, nothing was absolute. There were very few people who would betray the secret doors. It wasn't because of benefits, but because of the choice between life and death. Therefore, choosing a secret door was a very dangerous thing. Lei Xingfeng once met the secret door's ancestor. He killed his subordinate with a slap without any guilt or hesitation. Jean Depan said, "I hope we can leave quietly when we get out." He couldn't help but pray that there was no one outside. His strength wasn't suitable for fighting. There were too many experts. He wouldn't be able to take a single hit. Chapter 375. Lei Xingfeng chuckled. "What are you worried about? You don't have to worry at all. You just need to stay here. Hee, I'll bring Uncle Jean and Uncle Tiger out. Before, we couldn't store people in the hidden space, but now it's different. The mirror realm can store a lot of people." Jean Dia asked, "How many people can it store? Is there a limit?" Lei Xingfeng nodded. "There is a limit. Right now, it can only store about 100 people. Any more, and it will consume a lot of energy. It's not worth it. Actually, I don't need 100 people. I'll be satisfied if a few dozen people can enter." Jean Depang was happy. "Is that so? Then I'll stay here. I'll build a house here first. A kitchen and a big wooden shed." Lei Xingfeng said, "When we go back, you'll have to come out." Jean Depang was puzzled. "Why?" Lei Xingfeng gave a simple explanation. "Because I've just gained control of the mirror realm. If someone stays inside, it will consume some energy. I need to save energy, so I won't leave anyone inside unless it's absolutely necessary. Everything will have to wait until I advance." Jean Depang smiled bitterly and muttered, "Sigh, I can't even stay here if I want to. Forget it. I'd be happier at home. I've wasted so much of my meal time by coming out. I'll never come out again." Lei Xingfeng said, "This glutton." Jean Dia's face also darkened. Jean Depang was his junior, and this junior made him feel embarrassed. In fact, he knew why Jean Depang wanted to stay. It wasn't because there was something good here. The conditions here were far worse than Lei Xingfeng's home. But in the mirror realm, he could follow Lei Xingfeng and obtain countless strange ingredients. In the end, this guy still liked to eat. Tiger Love said, "It's not the first time you know he's a glutton. You knew it when you first met." The story of the meeting between Lei Xingfeng and Jean Depang had been circulating for a long time, so everyone knew how the two met. Jean Dia glared fiercely at Jean Depang and said, "You'd better cultivate well. Damn it, with such good resources and conditions, all you think about is eating. One day, you'll die from eating." Jean Depang's face immediately turned bitter as he looked at Lei Xingfeng with a pitiful expression. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Jean, everyone has their own ambitions. Since he likes it, just do it. He's already an adult. It's fine as long as he's happy." Jean Dia sighed and stopped trying to persuade Tung Yuan. In fact, he had tried many times, including scolding and cursing, but it was to no avail. Jean Depang was a yes man in front of Tung Yuan, not daring to refute him at all. After that, he would continue to do what he was supposed to do. He and Tung Yuan continued to cook all kinds of delicacies. Lei Xingfeng said, "Is everything ready? We're ready to go out. Fatty, you stay here this time. When I get to a safe place, I'll teleport you out. By the way, Bud, you stay here too. I don't know what's going on outside." The blackbird was a little reluctant. Tiger Love said, "If I accidentally hurt you, it'll be troublesome." Lei Xingfeng said, "Come down. When we get to a safe place, I'll let you out." The blackbird said, "Okay, but don't leave me inside. There's nothing to eat here. Remember, there's nothing to eat here. I'll starve to death." As it spoke, it also helped Lei Xingfeng comb his hair. This was its best flattery. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Don't worry." The blackbird reluctantly flapped its wings and flew up. It circled Lei Xingfeng's head a few times, cawed twice, and flew away. As long as the blackbird was in the mirror realm, Lei Xingfeng could teleport it out at any time. In other words, Lei Xingfeng could teleport it out at any time. No matter where it went, as long as it was in the mirror realm, it would be impossible to not find it. Lei Xingfeng had a strange feeling. In the entire mirror realm, he was a god. He could do whatever he wanted. Of course, it was just a feeling. He couldn't really do it. The mirror realm also needed to be cultivated and accepted. At present, he could only control a part of it, but this part was already a great harvest. Jean Depang set up a big table and began to take out all kinds of food from his hidden Luan space. Tiger Love asked curiously, "Fatty, what are you doing?" "We're about to leave." Jean Depang took out another recliner and slowly laid down with his huge body. He didn't dare to use too much strength for fear that he would collapse the recliner. He giggled and said, "I know this isn't for you guys to eat. Now that you're all gone, I can take a break and eat something while I'm at it." Tiger Love was speechless. He said, "Okay, you eat, hee." Lei Xingfeng looked at Jean Depang and said, "Prepare for battle." As he spoke, he clasped his hands together and made a very strange sound. He suddenly pulled his hands apart, and there was a cracking sound. In the blink of an eye, the three of them were dazzled. Someone came out. This was the first thing Lei Xingfeng heard when he came out. 6 silver puppets surrounded the 3 people. Lei Xingfeng, Jean Daya, and Tiger Love were on guard. There was not just one person around, but a large group of people. The entire mountain, including the cliff, was filled with people. Lei Xingfeng calculated that there were at least 30 people, most of whom were 9th ring sages. Lei Xingfeng knew that there must be experts above monarch level here. 7 or 8 9th ring sages flew into the sky and stared at the 3 people in a suppressive manner. Then, people surrounded them from all directions. Xian Feng could feel the smell of gunpowder as well as an extreme threat. He casually took out another gold puppet and stood at the foot of the mountain. There were 7 gold puppets in total, one of which was protecting the 3 people. They watched as the people surrounded them. Jean Daya said, "As expected." Tiger Love laughed. "Scared? Hee." Jean Daya laughed disdainfully. "Me? Scared? What's there to be scared of?" He knew that there were so many gold puppets, and Lei Xingfeng even had steel puppets. When gathered together, their strength was quite frightening. They might not be able to deal with monarchs, but they were more than enough to deal with 9th ring sages. Lei Xingfeng was even more fearless now. He now had the mirror realm. Not only could it provide him with a layer of protection, but he could also hide in it if things went south. With a mirror realm that could attack and defend freely, he was invincible. A young man, surrounded by a group of 9th ring sages, flew down from the sky and landed in front of Lei Xingfeng. He glanced at the gold puppets and said, "There are even gold puppets from the forbidden area. Not bad, not bad. Hee, but they're useless against me, even if they're gold puppets." Lei Xingfeng's heart skipped a beat. He already felt extreme threat. This was not the aura of a monarch, but the aura of a heavenly lord. Just then, a person appeared and said, "Master, this gold puppet is not to be underestimated." Tiger Love was shocked. Hua Chung perfected lord. This was the monarch they met in the avocado swamp. Lei Xingfeng's gold puppets had beaten him up. They did not expect this guy's master to come. This made Lei Xingfeng, Jean Daya, and Tiger Love certain that this person was a heavenly lord. Lei Xingfeng signaled Jean Daya and Tiger Love to come closer. Then he said, "Hua Chung perfected lord, what do you want?" As he spoke, he quickly released the other 2 gold puppets and 30 silver puppets. He had no choice. The enemy was too strong. He had no choice but to use his trump card. If he still couldn't win, he would have to retreat into the mirror world. With regards to battles, Xian Feng wasn't very passionate about them due to his memories from his previous life, but he understood that in this world, if you weren't strong enough, then you wouldn't be responsible for your own life. He had no choice but to do his best to strengthen himself. Hua Cheng, perfected lord, was beaten up badly by the gold puppets. When he saw Lei Xingfeng again, he could not help but grit his teeth. However, when he saw Lei Xingfeng release so many gold puppets, he was also shocked. What a joke! 3 gold puppets could definitely kill him. He said, "Master." The young man smiled and waved his hand. "Don't worry. 3 gold puppets can't touch me." Hua Cheng, perfected lord's mouth twitched, but he eventually closed it. He wanted to remind his master again because he had experienced the ferocity of the gold-level puppets. One of the characteristics of the gold-level puppets was that when they weren't moving, you wouldn't know how perverted they were. But it was clear that his master didn't care at all. Lei Xingfeng stood calmly. Jean Daya and Tiger Love were completely different. Their faces were pale, and their bodies were shaking. The opponent's aura directly suppressed them without any modesty. Only Lei Xingfeng looked calm. If he took off his clothes, he would be able to see that his body was emitting a faint fluorescent light. That was the protection of the mirror realm. It directly blocked the opponent's aura. The Sky Monarch's eyes showed a trace of surprise. It was not easy to block his aura. Even if a perfected lord stood in Lei Xingfeng's position, he would also have to bow. However, the little guy actually straightened his back. He was not afraid at all and was not affected by the invisible pressure. This was interesting. "You got the mirror realm?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of the mirror realm." Mirror realm, mirror realm, mirror land, ancient mirror realm. These were the names of the mirror realms Lei Xingfeng had obtained. Of course, Lei Xingfeng did not have to admit it. Even if the opponent knew that he had it, he would not admit it. This was very important. The man said lightly, "I'm Di Duo Jian." Hua Cheng, perfected lord, said, "Why don't you call me senior? My master is the Sky Monarch." Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. This was the first time he saw a perfected lord showing off his master to a 9th ring sage. Perhaps it was because he had been beaten up by the gold puppets. He unconsciously began to want to suppress Lei Xingfeng. Di Duo Jian narrowed his eyes and glanced at Hua Cheng, perfected lord. The pressure suddenly pressed on him, causing him to retreat in fear. He was surprised and could not understand why this disciple would say that. It was as if he was eager to prove something. He did not know that Hua Cheng, perfected lord, had been beaten up. Chapter 376. He said, "It doesn't matter what you call me. I'm just asking you, did you get the mirror realm?" Lei Xingfeng's expression didn't change. He said, "No, I don't know what the mirror realm is." Di Duo Jian's face darkened. He said, "Which secret sect are you from?" As a senior, he was indeed qualified to ask about Lei Xingfeng's secret sect. Lei Xingfeng said, "Sorry, I don't want to know you. We have other things to do. Goodbye." He didn't want to continue to entangle with him, but he knew very well that it would be difficult to be kind this time. 36 silver puppets surrounded the 3 of them tightly, and 3 gold puppets in front of Lei Xingfeng. Therefore, even if Di Duo Jian wanted to attack, it would be difficult for him to succeed. Hua Cheng Jinjuan said, "You can't go." Lei Xingfeng said, "You want to fight?" Di Duo Jian didn't expect a 9th ring sage to be so tough. He said, "You can't use the mirror realm. Well, I'll exchange it with something. How about it?" Since he couldn't threaten him, he tried to lure him. Of course, he hoped that Xian Feng would agree, but he didn't know if Xian Feng had obtained the mirror world. The reason why he didn't attack was that he saw so many puppets. It was not that he was afraid of them, but that Lei Xingfeng had so many gold and silver puppets, which meant that Lei Xingfeng's sect was very powerful. At the same time, it also showed that Lei Xingfeng's status was very high. Even if he was a lord of heaven, he didn't dare to attack recklessly. Secondly, Lei Xingfeng was only a ninth ring sage. Di Duo Jian didn't believe that Lei Xingfeng could get the mirror realm. Even he might not be able to get the mirror realm smoothly. This was the reason why he insisted on asking. After Lei Xingfeng firmly refused, Di Duo Jian's heart wavered a little. Therefore, he used the temptation to test whether Lei Xingfeng had the mirror realm or not. Jin Daya and Shi, who looked at each other, and there was a trace of worry in their eyes. Even if the other party was only a heaven monarch, it was still too much of a threat to them. Even the gold-class puppet beasts would have a hard time fighting with a heaven monarch. If Di Duo Jian was a high-level heaven monarch, like the ancestor, heaven monarch Wu Yang, the 3 gold-class puppet beasts wouldn't be able to hold him off for long. If he was a beginner heaven monarch, then there was still some hope. Lei Xingfeng couldn't immediately take Jin Daya and Tiger Love back to the mirror realm. If he entered at this time, it meant that he would still be here when he came out. Unless he was promoted to a supreme, he could use the secret door. At that time, he could go anywhere and directly get rid of the opponent. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng was a little anxious. The opponent was too strong. If there were a few supreme, he wouldn't be afraid. However, he was a lord of heaven who was 2 levels higher than him. He was a little helpless. The most terrible thing was that he couldn't summon Wu Yang to save his life. Master and ancestor had already left the secret door. Now, he didn't even know where they were. When they first appeared here, it could be said that they had entered from the outside. Even if this explanation was a little forced, it was still an explanation. However, if Jin Daya, Shi, and the group of puppets were sucked into the mirror world, then the other party would immediately be able to tell that he had obtained the mirror world. There was no doubt about that. A lord of heaven was not so easily fooled. What should he do? Di Duo Jian blocked Lei Xingfeng's path. All around him were his subordinates and disciples. No matter which direction Lei Xingfeng tried to go, he would be blocked. It could be said that with Lei Xingfeng's strength, it would be difficult to escape. Lei Xingfeng whispered, "Did you get in touch with young martial uncle?" Jin Daya shook his head. "I just tried, but there was no response." Lei Xingfeng sighed inwardly. If young martial uncle Feng Qinzong opened the secret door to help them, then all his puppets would be lost. This kind of loss was absolutely unbearable. One must know that the 36 silver puppets and 3 gold puppets were Lei Xingfeng's strongest fighting force. With them, he didn't need to be afraid of a lord of heaven. What should he do? Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. If he knew this would happen, he would have stayed in the mirror realm for a while longer. Even if he stayed for a few dozen days, he didn't believe that Di Duo Jian would stay here forever. But if he went back now, this guy would probably stay here forever. The reason why so many people came to the avocado swamp was probably because this guy wanted to find the mirror realm. Di Duo Jian also had a headache. If he did it himself, once the news spread, it would be troublesome if the other party's elders came. If it was a lord of heaven, then it would be fine. But if it was a lord of heaven, then he would be courting death. He knew very well that Lei Xingfeng was definitely not an ordinary disciple. Not to mention other things, the fact that he had these extremely rare puppets represented Lei Xingfeng's importance. No matter which secret door it was, who would be willing to give a 9th ring sage so many puppets? One must know how difficult it was to obtain a complete set of puppets, let alone activate them. Lei Xingfeng not only had 36 silver puppets, but also 3 gold puppets, which were extremely rare. These were weapons that could fight against a lord of heaven. Di Duo Jian saw that Lei Xingfeng didn't answer and just kept looking around. He said, "How about it? I'll use materials or something you need in exchange for the mirror realm." Lei Xingfeng despised this guy in his heart. Wasn't this cheating a child? He said, "Senior, I'm sorry. I don't know what the mirror realm is, so I can't make a deal with you." This thing couldn't be traded at all, and Lei Xingfeng couldn't do it either. The simple reason was that this thing was priceless. Some people said that very precious things were priceless, but the mirror realm was priceless. Since it was priceless, then the idea of a deal was ridiculous. Lei Xingfeng would, of course, flatly refuse. Di Duo Jian's face became gloomier. He said, "You're just a 9th ring sage. How dare you be so rude to your senior?" Xian Feng immediately understood. This fellow was going to use force since soft methods didn't work. As expected, he spoke. "Since you dare to be so rude, then I'll represent your elders to teach you a lesson, capture the 3 of them." Jean Dia scolded, "Despicable." Tiger Love also scolded, Elders my ass. A pile of shit, just an excuse to bully people." At this time, the 2 realized that they had become a lot bolder. In fact, it was no wonder. After they had the mirror realm as an escape route, they were no longer afraid. At worst, they could just hide in the mirror realm. At that time, you couldn't hit them anyway, so they could just curse. Even if they couldn't beat you, it was good to make you angry. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Go!" The 3 of them rushed out along the foot of the mountain. Their target was the forest, not far away. Lei Xingfeng already had an idea. Even if they wanted to enter the mirror realm, they would have to rush into the forest and then run for a while before entering. He didn't believe that the other party could cut down a lot of forest. If they entered the mirror realm in an open space, the other party only needed to guard it, and he couldn't come out. The 3 gold level beast puppets protected the 3 of them, while the other 36 silver level beast puppets crazily ran around the 3 of them and the 3 gold level beast puppets. Any attack was blocked by the 36 silver level beast puppets. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Run! Don't fly! Run! Quick! Quick! Quick!" As he ran crazily, he desperately shot out lightning. His main target was the 9th ring sages in the sky, to prevent them from attacking in the air. Even so, Lei Xingfeng couldn't block so many attacks. The other party's various attacks fell like raindrops. In just a few breaths, Jean Dia and Tiger Love were already injured. Fortunately, Lei Xingfeng had the protection of the mirror realm and could stabilize himself. In a few breaths, they were already close to the forest. Di Duo Jian didn't attack, not because he was embarrassed, but because he didn't think that the other party could escape. Beside him, Hua Chengtru, Lord, also didn't attack. The lesson from before was too deep, so when he saw Lei Xingfeng, he felt that his hands and feet were tied, especially when he saw the 3 gold level beast puppets. He always felt his scalp go numb. Therefore, he didn't attack, but only urged his subordinates and disciples to attack. Lei Xingfeng saw Jean Dia spit out a mouthful of blood and didn't hesitate to put him into the mirror realm. Then, he saw that Tiger Love was also on the verge of dying. The other party's attacks were not only concentrated, but also very powerful. They were shrouded in thick smoke and flames. Tiger Love was burned until he screamed, but before he could scream, he was put into the mirror realm by Lei Xingfeng. With 2 less people, Lei Xingfeng was able to move freely. A gold level beast puppet suddenly carried him on its back, and its speed suddenly increased. The gold level beast puppet's speed wasn't just for show. Once it increased its speed crazily, even a true lord might not be able to catch up. Several lightning nets were shot out consecutively, blasting down the ninth ring sage in the sky. At this time, Lei Xingfeng's lightning was a little different from before. Its power was a little strange. Its lethality didn't increase by much, but the effect of paralysis was greatly increased. Few people could resist it. As for the people attacking from the outside, even if they attacked, they were blocked by the silver-level beast puppets. Fortunately, Lei Xingfeng was focused on escaping, so the ninth ring sages were not defeated. There was a Lord of Heaven standing behind this group of people. Even if he didn't attack, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to continue fighting because Di Duojian was standing there, and it seemed that he didn't intend to join in. At this point, Lei Xingfeng certainly knew that this was his chance. He shot out more lightning from his hands. Of course, he didn't dare to release the chaos wheel for the time being. Once he was in danger, he would immediately enter the mirror realm. If he didn't take back the chaos wheel at that time, it would be a big loss. In about 10 seconds, 36 silver-level beast puppets, 3 gold-level beast puppets, and Lei Xingfeng on the back of a gold-level beast puppet had already rushed into the dense forest. Di Duojian said gloomily, "Watch him." Then his figure flashed slightly and disappeared, leaving behind a sentence that spread in the air, "Hua Cheng, go to the forest and watch over him." As long as Hua Cheng didn't fight, he was very happy. He agreed and disappeared in a flash. He left a few ninth ring sages beside him and flew into the forest. Running on the ground couldn't be compared to flying. After Xian Feng entered the forest, he immediately started to collect the silver-level mannequins, and in a few breaths of time, he had already collected the 36 silver-level mannequins and released the 8 steel mannequins to follow him as he ran. The forest here was very tall, with thick tree trunks and dense canopies. As they ran, the thinner trees were all broken. Chapter 377. After collecting 2 more gold-level puppets, Lei Xingfeng smiled strangely and shouted, "Spread out and run." The 8 steel puppets immediately fanned out and ran forward. Of course, they were much slower than the silver mannequins. However, while the steel mannequins weren't fast, they caused a lot of commotion. The commotion caused by their running made the people in the air think that there were many mannequins. It had to be known that the steel mannequins were incomparably strong. They almost always ran in a straight line. Unless they encountered a tree that was as thick as a person's arm, they would never take a detour. At that moment, Xian Feng and the gold-level mannequin beast carrying him left the group. This gold-level mannequin beast speed was extremely fast as it ran to the side. Suddenly, the gold-level mannequin beast disappeared while Xian Feng flew up. He flew close to the ground in order to eliminate the gold-level mannequin beast's tracks. After flying for a distance, he disappeared without a trace. In less than a few minutes, Di Duojian realized that something was wrong. He could see very clearly from the air that Lei Xingfeng's group had split into 8 groups and were running in 8 different directions. Di Duojian instantly arrived at one of the teams. In fact, there was only one steel puppet beast, but he couldn't see it clearly from the sky. He shouted, "Surround him! If you find that brat, capture him and kill the rest." He had to capture Lei Xingfeng alive. If he wanted to kill Lei Xingfeng, he had to do it personally. The other party would not be able to stop him at all. Killing people was easy, but capturing people was difficult. Fortunately, the other party ran in different directions. He thought that his chance had come. More than 10 ninth ring sages rushed down. The steel puppet was not willing to fight at all. It was ordered to run forward regardless of the situation. It was not allowed to stop or fight. Running was the right thing to do. When a steel mannequin ran recklessly, its momentum was very frightening. It was like a train that had lost control in the dense forest. Anything that stood in its way would be smashed to pieces. Of course, if it hit a giant tree, it might be able to slow it down a little. The dozen or so ninth ring sages landed in an encirclement. Before they could do anything, the 3 ninth ring sages, standing in front of the steel doll, saw a huge black object coming at them. It was like a huge rock whistling through the air. The 3 ninth ring sages were caught off guard and were sent flying. The one in front of them had his tendons and bones broken. He almost immediately lost consciousness and fainted. The other 2 were slightly better, but they were also dizzy and had at least a few broken bones. They could only watch as the steel puppet rushed past. One of the people who was lightly injured suddenly reacted and shouted, "It's not them! It's not them!" But no one cared. The remaining ninth ring sages swarmed over. The steel puppet's tracks were too obvious. Of course, this kind of secret could not be kept for long. Soon, Diduo Jian knew that something was wrong. Someone reported that the thing running below was a strange type of puppet. It was completely different from the ones they saw before. Diduo Jian immediately attacked. With a casual attack, he shattered a steel puppet. Then, after a short observation, his expression changed. He cursed, "Bastard, how dare you lie to me?" As he continued to flicker, the steel beast dolls were destroyed one by one. It took him less than 3 minutes to destroy 8 steel beast dolls. When he flew above the forest again, the forest below was silent. There was no sound at all. Diduo Jian was flustered and exasperated. He shouted, "Search! Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, find them." A group of subordinates wandered around the forest like headless flies, looking for the tracks left behind. After about 2 hours, they found the tracks left behind by the gold puppet. Then, at a certain location, all the tracks disappeared. Hua Cheng also searched carefully. Then, he reported to Diduo Jian, "Master, they should have disappeared here. As for where they went, I don't know." Diduo Jian pondered for a moment and suddenly understood. He said, "Damn it, they should have entered the mirror realm. This is F** King Troublesome. That little bastard." With his self-restraint, he usually would not swear. He did not expect that this time he would make mistakes with Lei Xingfeng. He could not help but swear. Hua Chengzhenjuan said, "Master, what should we do?" Diduo Jian said, "Guard here. Since he's only a 9th ring sage, I believe that he can't use the secret door to leave. He will definitely appear here. I don't believe that I can't catch him. I'll set up a big trap here later. Humph! Unless you never come out, don't think about running away again." Hua Chengzhenjuan was speechless. How much materials and labor would it take? A big trap was easy to say but difficult to do. Master would definitely spend a lot of money this time. When Lei Xingfeng returned to the mirror realm, he saw Jean Dia, Tiger Love, and Jean Depang sitting around a big table. They were chatting and laughing while eating. The black bird stood beside the table. In front of it was a plate of fresh meat strips. It was eating with relish. Jean Depang saw Lei Xingfeng and hurriedly took out a chair and put it beside the table. He smiled politely and said, "It's good that you're back." "Ha, a phone. Take a seat." Lei Xingfeng sat down and sighed. "I lost 8 steel humanoid beasts. Sigh, it's heartbreaking." Jean Dia asked curiously, "How did you lose 8 steel humanoid beasts? Didn't you use the silver and gold humanoid beasts?" You transferred them out at the last minute." Lei Xingfeng smiled and explained, "I couldn't bear to use the silver and gold humanoid beasts, so I had to replace them with steel humanoid beasts. When they find out about the steel humanoid beasts, they will probably die of anger." Ha ha! Everyone understood one thing. As long as the other party couldn't pinpoint the location where Lei Xingfeng disappeared, then the chances of them escaping were very high. As the saying goes, one can be a thief for 1,000 days, but there's no such thing as guarding against a thief for 1,000 days. At the beginning, they would be very careful, but after a long time, no matter who it was, they would slack off. Moreover, they might not be able to pinpoint the location where Lei Xingfeng disappeared. This was the reason why Lei Xingfeng threw out the 8 steel humanoid beasts. Sacrificing 8 steel humanoid beasts to confuse the other party's line of sight was very worthwhile. Lei Xingfeng was at least 60% sure that they could escape from this predicament, as long as they returned to the secret door. Di Duojian would lose its target. Tiger Love smiled and said, "This loss doesn't matter. Haha, after a while we can sneak away." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "After 20 to 30 days we can sneak out. If they don't find the location where I disappeared, haha, I will directly inform Junior Marshal Uncle to take us back to the secret treasure space and let them keep watch there." Jean Depang said, "Afeng, you are too evil. If you keep watch there for a few years, the guards will probably go crazy." Lei Xingfeng said, "They deserve it. As long as I become a monarch, they won't be able to trap us anymore. As long as I can use the secret door. Right, if I can use the secret door of the Mirror Realm, it means that I can really explore the Great Forbidden Area. Is there anything that can trap us? The Mirror Realm is different from ordinary secret doors. Relying on the Mirror Realm, any trap will be useless." Everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. The Great Forbidden Area was a treasure land. Since Lei Xingfeng came out from there, everyone knew that it was dangerous. However, there were countless treasures in the Great Forbidden Area. If they had the escape route of the Mirror Realm, as long as they had the strength to buy some time, they could escape back to the Mirror Realm. Using the secret door to come out from other places meant that the risk would be reduced to a minimum. Di Duojian not only opened the secret door, but also transported a large number of materials. He also asked his subordinates to quickly surround the forest and began to set up a large-scale trap. This kind of trap was obtained from the Great Forbidden Area. It was a kind of restriction that made it difficult for people to fly and walk. Although it was only a basic restriction, very few people could control it. This kind of restriction was used by the Great Forbidden Area to trap invaders. Di Duojian was once trapped by this restriction. Fortunately, the restriction's energy was insufficient, so he was able to escape. Within the range of this restriction, he accidentally obtained a Star Python record. It recorded the simple refining method of this restriction. It required a large number of materials to set up. In order to obtain the Mirror Realm, Di Duojian was going all out. He couldn't let Lei Xingfeng escape. If he did, the consequences would be very serious. If he didn't handle it well, he might provoke the opponent's elders. He didn't think that he could conquer the world. There were many powerful experts in this world. If he provoked a Dao monarch, he would be finished. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to capture Lei Xingfeng. As long as he could get the Mirror Realm, everything would be worth it. Once this restriction was completed, it would consume about 30 to 40 yin rings per day. If a wild beast broke in, the number of yin rings consumed would greatly increase. Just the yin rings alone could bankrupt a monarch. Of course, Di Duojian was a monarch. He had enough yin rings to last for a long time. However, even if he was a monarch, the consumption of yin rings still made his heart ache. As long as Di Duojian's heart ached, Lei Xingfeng would feel extremely happy. Of course, Lei Xingfeng didn't know what Di Duojian was feeling right now. His only goal was to leave this place as far as possible. He didn't want to fight with Di Duojian at all. He wasn't stupid. Once he fought, there was a 90% chance that he would lose. In this kind of battle, Lei Xingfeng would stay as far away as possible. Di Duojian would not stay here for long. When the entire trap was set up, it would only take about 10 days. Then, Di Duojian would leave. It was easy for him to come here. As long as he sent a message back, he would be able to come here in less than 10 minutes. He was convinced that this trap would definitely delay the other party for a few hours. A dozen ninth ring sages were left around the trap. Then, hundreds of sages were sent here. They were all third or fourth ring sages. They were mainly used to patrol the surroundings. After all, there weren't enough ninth ring sages. Hua Cheng True Lord was left behind to command. In other words, Hua Cheng True Lord couldn't leave for the time being. He had to stay here and command everyone. This wasn't a good job for a monarch. Chapter 378. This was a primeval forest, humid and hot. Plus, there were countless mosquitoes. If one didn't put up some protection, they would be annoyed to death. Therefore, no one wanted to stay here for long. In the hidden sect, even a ninth ring sage could live a good life, let alone a top master like Immortal Huacheng. But here, everyone had to suffer. Every time he thought of Lei Xingfeng, Immortal Huacheng would gnash his teeth. He really wanted to catch that arrogant guy. His subordinate reported that they had built the first treehouse. This place was only suitable for treehouses. The ground wasn't suitable for treehouses. One had to know that the forest was humid and hot, and there were all kinds of poisonous insects. Especially under the trees, it was too uncomfortable for people to live there. Therefore, treehouses were the most suitable. There were huge ancient trees here, so it was very convenient to build treehouses. Huacheng flew to the treehouse and looked around. He was very satisfied, especially when the breeze blew. It dissipated his gloominess. He said, "Good, follow the trap. Build a treehouse every 10 meters or so. Arrange people to observe. If you find anything, immediately send out the alarm." A ninth ring sage said, "Master, don't worry. We've arranged our shifts. We won't let anyone go." Immortal Hua Cheng nodded with satisfaction. He sat down cross-legged and stared at the dense forest. No one knew what he was thinking. The other sages left quietly, leaving only a few servants to wait for his call. Lei Xingfeng took Jean Dia, Tiger Love, and Jean Depang to tour the Mirror Realm. After Lei Xingfeng took the Mirror Realm, it began to shrink rapidly. It was now about 100 kilometers in radius. If it wanted to expand again, it would need a lot of energy. The weeds on the ground were more than a foot tall, and the saplings were nearly a meter tall. The original buildings, except for those made of steel, had mostly collapsed and disappeared, except for a few that Lei Xingfeng purposely kept. The rest had turned into mud. In addition, Lei Xingfeng also discovered that there was an underground smelting factory. As long as there were minerals, one could refine all kinds of metal products. The smelting factory was actually controlled by puppets. It was so advanced that Lei Xingfeng was shocked. This meant that if there were minerals in the mirror dimension, then the underground smelting factory could operate and produce all kinds of metals. It could then create all kinds of metal puppets. Of course, these underground smelting factories and manufacturing factories had basically stopped operating. Firstly, there was no ore, and secondly, there was no energy supply. These were all problems that Lei Xingfeng had to solve in the future. After living in the Mirror Realm for more than 30 days, Lei Xingfeng decided to go out and take a look. If there was no one outside, then he could slip away. Lei Xingfeng quietly came out with a gold-level puppet. The reason why he brought the gold-level puppet was because he was afraid of encountering Di Duojian. Then, the gold-level puppet would be able to block one attack and give Lei Xingfeng time to escape. The place where he came out was next to a big tree. Lei Xingfeng and the gold-level puppet quietly appeared. Lei Xingfeng did not move and listened. The surroundings were silent. There was only the sound of birds chirping and the occasional rustling. There was no sound of people. Lei Xingfeng let the gold-level puppet stay next to the big tree while he carefully climbed up. Soon, he reached the top of the tree. Lei Xingfeng looked carefully and quickly found the treehouse in the distance. He also saw people moving. Occasionally, he could see people flying quickly from one tree to another. This could not be hidden from Lei Xingfeng's eyes. After a little calculation, Lei Xingfeng immediately let out a sigh of relief. He was secretly glad that he had made the wise choice. He was almost certain that when he took away the gold-level puppet and left behind the last trace, the other party had circled around a few kilometers. Although he did not know what the other party had done, Lei Xingfeng knew that there was definitely a big problem in the area surrounded. Now, it was clear that he did not fall into the area that the other party had circled. Quietly sneaking down the tree, Lei Xingfeng quickly put away the gold-level puppet and then carefully left in the opposite direction. His feet definitely could not step on the ground, so Lei Xingfeng hung a foot in the air and moved bit by bit. He tried his best to avoid the branches and leaves as he moved further and further away. After walking for a full half an hour, Lei Xingfeng finally started running. He no longer paid attention to the branches and trees blocking his way and rushed straight through. Soon, he had run very far away. Lei Xingfeng quickly climbed up a huge tree. He looked around and found that he was already far away from those people. After releasing Jean Daya and Tiger Love, Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, we have already escaped from the other party's pursuit. It's time to go back." Jean Daya laughed and said, "Are those people still there?" Tiger Love said, "They should be. They probably won't give up on such an important thing." Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "They built a tree house. It looks like they'll be guarding it for a long time. Let them wait. Even if they wait until they die, there won't be any results." He couldn't help but want to laugh. Jean Daya couldn't help but laugh. "Haha, you're too evil. A phone. If those guys knew that you escaped long ago, wouldn't they be pissed to death?" Tiger Love said, "If it were me, I would be pissed to death. This is too much of a scam." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "That's right, I'm going to scam them. Humph, when I'm strong enough, when I meet them again, I won't have to run anymore." Jean Daya said with bad intentions, "Then let them wait a few more years, maybe a decade." "Haha." Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Tiger, did you get in touch with Junior Uncle?" Tiger Love said, "Yes." Soon, the three went through Feng Qinzong's secret door and returned to the hidden space. Feng Qinzong saw that the three of them were all smiles and asked curiously, "Rich? You're all so happy." Xian Feng spoke, "I'm not rich, I'm just happy." Feng Qinzong looked at Lei Xingfeng suspiciously. He suddenly laughed. "No way. As long as you go out, your luck is so good that it makes people jealous. Isn't this a rare occasion?" Lei Xingfeng laughed, but didn't answer. He couldn't answer. He would only tell them about the mirror realm when his master and founder came. He didn't want to show off for now. Feng Qinzong only joked a little before Lei Xingfeng took Jean Daya and Tiger Love home. Back home, Lei Xingfeng finally relaxed. He released Jean Dapan and the blackbird and smiled. "Welcome home." Jean Dapan sighed. "Damn, we're finally back." The blackbird spread its wings and flew in a circle, complaining, "My lord, you finally thought of the bird. You don't know how bored the bird is in that damned place. Caw, it's too annoying. It's really lonely. Caw, Uncle Feng, you can't throw the bird in there in the future. It's like being imprisoned. It's so depressing." Lei Xingfeng didn't answer. He raised his hand and shot out a bolt of lightning. The blackbird fell from the sky and landed on the ground, trembling. Lei Xingfeng shot out 3 bolts of lightning in a row. He smiled. Okay, that's about it. After trembling for a few minutes, the black bird flew up and landed on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder. It continued to tremble. Because of the stimulation of the lightning, it couldn't say a word. Its 2 little claws grabbed onto Lei Xingfeng's clothes. It had to hold on tight, or it would fall. After dealing with the blackbird, Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm going to sleep. Everyone has worked hard. Go back and rest. We'll talk later." After returning to his room, Xian Feng fell asleep as soon as he hit the pillow. He had been exhausted for the past few days in the mirror world, and he had been restless. After all, fighting against a Lord of Heaven was a huge pressure. A 9th-ringed Lord against a Lord of Heaven. There was no hope of winning. Even if he had the mannequin beast, he still wouldn't be able to win. Fortunately, he finally escaped. Lei Xingfeng was completely relaxed and slept very soundly. Lei Xingfeng slept for 2 days and 2 nights. In fact, he didn't need to sleep that long. But Lei Xingfeng liked the feeling of sleeping, especially at home. He didn't have to worry about any danger, so he continued to sleep even when he woke up. After 2 days, he couldn't sleep anymore. He had to drag his feet and get up. After taking a shower, he changed into a clean set of clothes and walked to the yard. There were only a few servants in the yard. When they saw Lei Xingfeng come out, they all saluted. They didn't go forward unless they were called by the master. Otherwise, they had to stay where they were. This was their duty. Lei Xingfeng came under the wooden shed and pulled out a chair to sit down. He waved his hand, and a servant ran over. "Here," Lei Xingfeng said. "Ask the kitchen to send some food. Hurry up." He hadn't eaten for a few days and was a little hungry. The servant quickly left. After a quarter of an hour, another servant came in with a big bowl of meat and soup. There was also a plate of duck oil sesame seed cake, which was Lei Xingfeng's favorite food. After eating a sesame seed cake, Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love all came out. The 3 of them came to Lei Xingfeng's side and pulled out chairs to sit down. They all reached out to grab a sesame seed cake to eat. Jean Dia said, "This is good. It should be Fatty's doing." Fatty Jean came out from the back with a big plate of steaming barbecued meat. He said, "It's freshly barbecued rock lamb. It's very delicious." "Hee hee." Mad Eagle said with a smile, "This is delicious." "Hee hee." Xian Zhaoluan and Qi Meiyun came in. Xian Zhaoluan said with a smile, "I smelled the aroma from outside. Little junior brother has been very relaxed recently." Lei Xingfeng stood up and said with a smile, "Second senior brother, third senior sister, what brings you here today?" Xian Zhaoluan said with a bitter smile, "We're all cooped up at home. It's not suitable for us to go out," he said as he came to the table. A servant pulled out chairs and invited the 2 of them to sit. Lei Xingfeng said, "What do you mean it's not suitable for us to go out?" Qi Meiyun said with a smile, "It's all a mess outside. Many people have come to occupy land. Because of the agreement with the secret sects, they won't expel the locals. They just occupy the land and build cities. Now, there are so many people coming and going outside. It's annoying just to see them. Most of us from the secret sects have retreated. We'll talk about it again when things are settled." Lei Xingfeng nodded. Of course, he understood. Although the outsiders were of the same language and race as this world, they were ordinary people who had developed their own technology. With this technology, although it couldn't compare to the power of the secret sects, they could exert their collective strength and form a new force. Chapter 379. This was a bit like the invasion of colonists. However, the secret sects had their own plans and did not stop the colonists from invading. After the two societies merged, the secret sex would naturally return to reap their own benefits. The secret sex had great power and would not be at a disadvantage in front of any society or force. Therefore, almost all the secret sex were in seclusion, waiting for things to calm down. It might take a long time, Xian Zhaoluan said. Actually, it doesn't affect us going out. It's just that there have been a lot of rumors recently. I don't know if it's true or not, but collecting materials for advancement is more important. I'm too lazy to worry about other things. Lei Xingfeng asked, "What rumors?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "It seems that a more powerful world has been discovered and that the passage can be opened by the secret sections. Many people have died, including many monarch-level experts. It's very dangerous. Now, the true experts of the secret sex have gone there and found a lot of top materials. It's said that it's more dangerous than outer space." Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, F***CK more dangerous than outer space? Outer space is already very dangerous. If it's more dangerous, how dangerous can it be? By the way, where did Master and Founder go? Xian Zhaoluan said, "I really don't know. Last time I asked Junior Uncle, he couldn't explain it clearly. He only said that he was to guard the house, but Master and Founder didn't say where they were going. However, I think it should be very dangerous. Otherwise, why didn't they bring you there?" Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Why did they want to bring me there?" Qi Meiyan said with a smile, "You're a lucky baby. Everyone knows that if they bring you there, they'll get rich." Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and said, Okay. A lucky baby is a lucky baby. It's better than no luck." Everyone laughed. After so many excursions, he had gained a lot every time. He had become known as a lucky baby. This was engraved in everyone's heart. No matter how Lei Xingfeng explained, no one would believe him. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng stopped explaining. The black bird jumped out of the room. It was also sleeping, so when it woke up and found that Lei Xingfeng was not there, it immediately jumped out and shouted, "I'm so hungry! Why didn't you call out to me when you were eating?" It spread its wings and flew to the table, saying, "Old fatty, give me some meat to eat." Everyone was stunned for a moment before they burst into laughter. Jean Depang cursed, "You damned bird, you dare to eat my meat?" Blackbird rolled his eyes and said, "Idiot! Is it that hard to understand? Even a bird understands it, but you alone don't understand?" Jean Depang immediately prostrated himself on the ground. He shook his head and sighed inwardly. "Why can't I remember? Never fight with this bird. It's a famous bird with a poisonous tongue. I definitely can't beat it." Jean Depang raised his hand and said, "I'm not talking to you anymore. What are you eating? Go find your master." Blackbird said, "Are you going to give it or not?" Jean Depang was amused. "What? How dare you threaten me? Be careful, or I'll roast you and eat you." Blackbird didn't say another word. A bolt of lightning as thin as a cotton thread directly struck Jean Depang. Lei Xingfeng and the others didn't stop it. Jean Depang didn't care at all. He didn't take any precautions. They all thought that such a thin bolt of lightning wouldn't have any effect. It couldn't hurt anyone. Who knew that the extremely thin bolt of lightning would explode when it hit Jean Depang. Electric arcs flashed all over Jean Depang's body. His hair all stood up, and his body trembled violently. Along with the intense shaking, a cracking sound was heard. The table and chair under Jean Depang collapsed. Jean Depang sat on the ground and continued shaking for a dozen or so seconds. Only then did he feel better. Everyone was dumbstruck. No one had expected that a single lightning bolt from the Blackbird would have such a huge effect. Jean Depang pointed at Blackbird, but couldn't say a word. His whole body was numb, and he couldn't even open his mouth. Lei Xingfeng stood up in surprise and said, "How can it be so powerful?" He knew that this little bit of electric current couldn't hurt Jean Depang, but the effect was surprisingly good because it could freeze Jean Depang. This was a very terrifying thing. If one was frozen in a battle, it would be the rhythm of death. Blackbird was immediately complacent. It raised its little head and said proudly, "Of course it's powerful. You dare to bully me? I'll numb you to death. Ga. Jean Depang waved his hand and said, You're ruthless. I'm scared of you." In terms of strength, Blackbird couldn't beat him. However, if he wanted to catch Blackbird, it would be extremely difficult. First of all, Blackbird could fly. Second, Blackbird's long-range attack had been tested and proved to be quite powerful. Blackbird was extremely proud. It cackled, and its laughter made everyone's hair stand on end. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Enough!" Suddenly, Blackbird withered like an eggplant hit by frost. It said, "You're bullying me again." Lei Xingfeng said, "You're the one bullying me." Blackbird spread its wings and flew to Lei Xingfeng's shoulder. It combed Lei Xingfeng's hair and said, "Sir, I'm innocent." Jean Dia suddenly said, "A phone. Can I choke this guy to death?" Lei Xingfeng was stunned, then laughed and said, "Birdbud, you're going to make everyone angry." Blackbird said, "Of course not. That guy has long disliked this bird. It's not strange for him to say something like this. It's just that this bird doesn't care." Jean Dia choked and couldn't say anything. As the saying goes, you have to look at the owner before beating a dog. Blackbird only dared to talk nonsense because of Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng warned, "Birdbud, if you talk nonsense again, I'll have Fatty throw you into the oven." Blackbird really didn't care when Jean Depang said he wanted to roast the bird. But when Lei Xingfeng said he wanted to roast the bird, it was really scared. It said fawningly, "This bird knows, sir, you can't bear to caw-caw." It guiltily combed Lei Xingfeng's hair and carefully observed his expression. Jean Dia waved his hand and said, "Forget it. I'm too lazy to lower myself to the bird's level." Lei Xingfeng took out some fresh meat strips. These were the food he prepared for Blackbird. There was a small amount of star beast meat mixed in. He put a plate on the table, then took out some fresh meat strips and put them on the plate. He said, "All right, Birdbud, eat." Blackbird cheered and flew to the table, quickly pecking. It wasn't stupid. It had already smelled the fragrance of the star beast meat. Jean Depang shook his head. He didn't know what to do with Blackbird. Blackbird didn't like his cooking. It only ate fresh meat. Unless he had some star beast meat, it would have been eaten long ago. While they were talking, Ishana walked in and said, "Stop eating. Quickly go to the ancestor." Lei Xingfeng stood up and said, "The ancestor is back." Ishana said, "He just came back." He immediately ordered everyone to go there. Lei Xingfeng only had one thought in his mind. Something bad happened. He said, "Second senior brother, third senior sister, let's go together." The three of them immediately ran out. Blackbird shouted, "Wait, bird, caw, I'm not done yet, caw." It quickly landed on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder and held on tightly. What a joke. One meal could be skipped, but rice couldn't be lost. Everyone else sat and looked at each other. After a while, Jean Dia said, "What's going on?" "It seems serious." Tiger Love said, "It seems urgent." "I don't know what's going on." Mad Eagle said with a smile, "It's fine. Even if something happens, it's not our place to worry." Jean Depang said, "Let's eat first. We'll know when a phone comes back. Instead of worrying, it's better to eat more, so that we can work harder." Jean Dia said helplessly, "You foodie, you only know how to eat." Mad Eagle smiled and said, "What Depang said is actually right. Even if something happens, it's not our place to worry. It's better to eat more and have enough energy to wait for a Feng's call. Maybe it's better this way. Ishanel didn't leave with them. He came to the table, sat down, and picked up a piece of duck oil sesame seed cake. He said while eating, "Don't worry, I don't think there's anything particularly dangerous. We'll just wait for them to come back." Although everyone was still a little worried, they didn't have any definite news. There was nothing they could do but wait patiently. Lei Xingfeng, Xian Zhaoluan, and Qi Meiyun quickly arrived at Wu Yang's residence. When the three entered the hall, they found that all the important people of the hidden sect were already there. Xian Feng hadn't seen his master Gu Qi and ancestor Wu Yang for a while. He looked at their faces and saw that they were calm. He let out a sigh of relief. It shouldn't be a serious problem. Maybe his master and ancestor just wanted to see everyone. All 8 disciples were here, including the eldest disciple Yuko, second disciple Xian Zhaoluan, third disciple Qi Meiyun, fourth disciple Bai Tianming, fifth disciple Yin Yao, sixth disciple Tung Yuan, seventh disciple Miao Ling, and the youngest disciple Lei Xingfeng. Master's wife Tangya, junior marshal uncle Feng Qinzong, and the most important people of the hidden sect were all here. Lei Xingfeng found a chair and sat down, quietly waiting for the elders to speak. The atmosphere in the hall was a little heavy. Everyone looked at their master and founder in silence. Wu Yang chuckled and said, "Don't be so nervous. No one died. Why are you all so tense?" Everyone relaxed. This kind of attitude was rare. But since Wu Yang said so, it meant that even if something happened, it didn't have much to do with them. Or rather, it didn't have much to do with them for the time being. Wu Yang continued, "I called everyone here to tell you one thing. Our hidden sect, yes, it's not just our hidden sect. Many hidden sects have gathered together. We've conquered a piece of land on the Dawn continent. We control about 1,000 square kilometers. We need a lot of people, at least first ring enlightened masters. Yes, we need about 800 people." Gucci added, "Just our hidden sect alone needs 800 people." Wu Yang said, "This piece of land was conquered by a large number of hidden sects experts. Many people died because of it." Gucci smiled. "It's a land of treasures. Resources are plentiful, even more plentiful than the outer realms. The natives there, well, they're not uncivilized natives. They're extremely powerful natives. Even the experts from the secret sects would find it difficult to deal with them. They had to gather the strength of a large number of secret sects to occupy that place." Wu Yang said, "We need to use the shortest amount of time to develop the resources there. That's why we mobilized people, mainly to dig and harvest. Our hidden sect also occupies a small piece of land, about 20 square kilometers. The location is not bad. There are several mineral veins that pass through the land. Those mineral veins can be excavated, and the rare plants on the ground can also be harvested." Chapter 380. In addition, the people of Dawn Continent are a little different from us. First, they speak different languages, and their race is also slightly different. Their strength is quite powerful, and their top-notch martial strength is about the same as our secret top-notch martial strength. Their true top-notch martial strength is comparable to Dao monarchs. Even I would lose if I went up against them. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "There's a difference in their race?" Wu Yang said, "Dark brown skin, white hair, and a thin body. They are called the Antari. They seem to have no strength, but that's not the case. They have unfathomable abilities, and we haven't figured it out yet. We can only rely on our powerful strength to suppress them. Moreover, they have a lot of people. Of course, the truly powerful experts are relatively few." Lei Xingfeng muttered to himself, Antari? What a strange way to put it. Gucci said, currently, Dao monarchs have already set up a large-scale seal in the area under our control. It can stop the Antari from entering. Of course, if we want to enter or leave, we have to get permission. Otherwise, we won't be able to leave. This means that this seal is also effective against us. Yuko's eyes lit up. Are there more resources outside? Wu Yang smiled. Of course. The area we occupy, in the eyes of the Antari, is a barren land. Everyone was shocked and started to discuss. Lei Xingfeng asked, what's the attitude of the Antari towards us? Wu Yang smiled. Hostile. You definitely won't like it. Gucci added, they kill everyone they see. If it wasn't for the experts blocking them and occupying a region, our people would have been killed. Lei Xingfeng asked, is there no possibility of peace? Wu Yang said indifferently, no, it's a life and death relationship. Moreover, our language is completely different. Someone is learning it now. Gucci smiled. Don't worry. As long as you don't go out of the protective circle in Dawn Continent, there won't be any danger. Lei Xingfeng shook his head inwardly. How could they not go out? Especially when there were so many resources out there. No one could resist such temptation, especially the cultivators who were so poor that they had gone mad. Wu Yang said, to us, the Dawn Continent is the wasteland continent. That place is safer than outer space, because the ones who are dangerous there are the Antari people. As long as they are human, they are not scary. Most importantly, the resources there are too rich. The Antari people rely on these resources and use extremely violent methods to reach an extremely high level of martial strength. That place is the treasure land for our long-term development. Gucci said, we lack a lot of manpower. In addition, that place is also a cultivation paradise. Your ancestor and I are about to advance. This time, we went to the Dawn Continent and found that it's a good place to advance. Therefore, we also need people to protect us. This time, I've gathered everyone to go to the Dawn Continent. Lei Xingfeng's heart skipped a beat. He thought of Ai Yi and Thunderstorm. He didn't know where he had run off to now. He sighed inwardly and asked, Ancestor, will my little sister's secret sect also go there? Wu Yang smiled. Most secret sects will go there. Your little sister's secret sect will definitely go there. Moreover, they should occupy a larger area. There are Dao monarchs in their secret sect. Yuko said, if that's the case, then isn't it a great migration? Wu Yang nodded. Actually, it's a great migration. That place is too suitable for us. You'll understand when you go there. This is also the reason why us old fellows are risking our lives to occupy this place. Lei Xingfeng said, how big is this continent? Wu Yang said, the area that we've explored so far is less than 10,000 square kilometers. The area that we occupy is also very small. However, it's enough for the various secret sects to enter. As long as we have a foothold, with our strength, we can nibble away at it bit by bit. Gucci said, that's right. We're nibbling away and expanding our territory bit by bit. After a certain extent, the various secret sects will be able to establish their own strongholds. Of course, they must have a certain level of strength. Wu Yang smiled. Actually, it's not that dangerous. You should know that we have secret sects. Once the stronghold cannot be defended, we can immediately retreat to the secret treasure space. Then we can return to the main stronghold and start all over again. This is a chance for the secret sects to rise once again. I believe that the various secret sects will do their best to discover it. This is an extremely rare opportunity. The discovery of the Dawn Continent was very coincidental. It was discovered by a few Dao lords during their exploration. Because of the distribution of resources and the fact that the locals were too strong. They decided to make it public and allow all the secret sects to join. Gucci added, entering a secret sect in a main stronghold isn't without a price. Roughly speaking, a secret sect needs to pay 200 rings per day to support the camp's defense. Of course, this has nothing to do with the number of people. Every secret sect has a limited territory. The number of people they have is up to them. Everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. 200 rings per day was a terrifying number. It didn't seem like much, but when accumulated, it was a shocking number. 10 days would be 2,000 rings. 100 days would be 20,000 rings. For a secret sect, this was definitely a heavy burden. Wu Yang said, "You don't have to worry too much about rings. You should know that the territory we occupy has all sorts of resources. We can just dig them out and exchange them for rings." If he had the mirror realm at that time, and Lei Xingfeng could control the secret door of the mirror realm, then this level of restriction wouldn't be able to trap them. Once the mirror realm was activated and the secret door was opened, then the mirror realm would be the best refuge and the best escape door. Having the mirror realm was equivalent to having a home and a door to escape at any time. Unless Lei Xingfeng was instantly killed, he definitely wouldn't die. Therefore, as long as he was careful, he could really go to any dangerous place. Lei Xingfeng lowered his head and thought carefully. Xian Zhaoluan pushed him hard. Lei Xingfeng said blankly, "What's wrong?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Grandmaster asked you a question." Lei Xingfeng looked up and said, "Sorry, I was distracted, Grandmaster." Wu Yang smiled and said, "Feng, are you going to be the first group to go?" Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "I'll be the second group to go. I need to make some preparations in advance and need some time." Most importantly, Lei Xingfeng didn't say that he needed some time to find Thunderstorm and inform Lei Xingyao. As for the continent he was born in, he didn't have any thoughts about it. It was different from his previous life. The range of activities in this world was too wide, and the communication technology couldn't be compared to his previous life. There were many people and many things that after they passed, they would never have the chance to meet again. Other than his family and his sect, Lei Xingfeng basically didn't care about anything else. There were no countries, no ethnic groups, and no enemies. He thought that as long as he and his family lived happily, this life was worth it. He didn't have the ambition to dominate, nor did he like killing. A leisurely life was his best goal and also his biggest dream. Of course, for this dream and goal, strength was the best guarantee. Wu Yang nodded and said, "That's good. This time, your master will be the vanguard. Those who want to go in the first group, sign up yourselves. Make it clear how many people you plan to bring. After the first group goes, the second group will come." Gucci said, "After we go, the entrance to the secret hidden space will be sealed." Lei Xingfeng's heart tightened. He said, "Master, if the entrance is sealed, then outsiders can't come in. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.